Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House did approve that we do adjourn the House for purposes of discussing this definite matter of urgent national importance regarding these ongoing demolitions and evictions in Athi River, Machakos County. Mr. Speaker, since Friday the 13th, which I would refer to as a dark Friday of October, up to date, the worst case of demolitions in the history of this country has been taking place in the county of Machakos, in the constituencies of Mavoko, in an area of Athi River. Mr. Speaker, first my sympathies go to those almost 10,000 families that have lost their livelihoods, their homes, their boards. Mr. Speaker, 5 churches were brought down, and Mr. Speaker, there are 33 churches on notice to also be brought down. Mr. Speaker, mosques, business premises, including 3 schools and a health facility, have also been brought down. Mr. Speaker, my sympathies notably go to one Mr. Madenge, Mr. Speaker, who is a hustler that took a loan to purchase land and went to the point of trying to confirm whether this land was actually legitimate. And that is only done when you go to the registry of lands and confirm that the people that were purporting to sell the land to him were actually the genuine landowners. And he invested his money and took a loan. And Mr. Speaker went to an architect and a civil engineer, got structural architectural drawings and structural drawings. And Mr. Speaker also sought the approval of the county government for construction of his house. Mr. Speaker, all this was granted. And Mr. Speaker, on the basis of that, he took a loan and built a house. Mr. Speaker, it is not even 10 years since this house was built. It has been brought down. What remains is rubble. It is important to note, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. Madenge still continues now, every month from his salary, to pay a housing levy. Mr. Speaker, it is a tragedy. My sympathies go to those families where their houses were brought down on that first night. And so children woke up the next day. They had no school to go to. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, because also families had nowhere to live because this destruction started in the evening. And by morning, Mr. Speaker, people were thrown out. Children spent the night out in the cold. Mothers with small children were out in the cold. Fathers had no answers for their families. Mr. Speaker, it is a major tragedy. Mr. Speaker, I want to condemn in the strongest terms possible those that gave the instructions for the demolition to take place. It is so unfortunate, 60 years after independence, that people can be hoodwinked, buy land and process titles, get connected to the national grid of electricity, road networks are put up, water is supplied in that area by the county government, and then suddenly all this comes down. And Mr. Speaker, I also want to condemn the police that was sent there in huge numbers. Mr. Speaker, it was so unfortunate because I went there as a local leader to go condole with these families and to see how we could help the children that spend the night out in the cold, whether we would provide them with blankets, whether we would buy for them a cup of tea. Mr. Speaker, we were chased like dogs, Mr. Speaker. It is unfortunate. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the history of this land, this is ancestral land. It is our heritage, the heritage of the people of Machakos. And Mr. Speaker, the land was given to the East African Portland Cement. They did not purchase it. The reason that East African Portland Cement was given this land was simply because that area was rich in minerals that are used in the production of cement. So they were given this land for purposes of mining so that they could be able to process cement, and that was the main business of East African Portland Cement. Mr. Speaker, it is notable that the East African Portland Cement has run into billions of debt as a result of the poor management of the business itself, a business that was once a monopoly of production of cement in this country. And therefore, in order to cover their losses, in order to cover their poor business practices, now East African Portland purports to want to sell the land that belongs to the community of Machakos County. Mr. Speaker, I think that is something we cannot take for granted. Mr. Speaker, it is also good to note that when these evictions were done, there was no eviction order that was given by the court. Mr. Speaker, the case that was taken to court was thrown out on technicality. And the only thing that the judge finally said was that we need to set a date of hearing so that a discussion could take place, so that the case would be heard. The case was never heard. And then, so therefore, after it was thrown out on technicality, bulldozers, the sound of bulldozers, the sound of wailing women and children is what we could hear from that place. So, Mr. Speaker, it is quite an irony that 60 years after independence, people can be thrown out in that manner. Mr. Speaker, it's also notable that Clause 155 of the Land Act does indicate that in order for anyone to be evicted, there must be two things. One, a court order, so that we can be sure that the court process has taken place. And two, Mr. Speaker, a notice of 60 days. You notice that recently when there was a ruling about the land that was owned by Gerishon Kirima, the late honorable member, they have given the occupants 60 days, and they have also opened up an opportunity for discussions. Mr. Speaker, that was not the case in Mavoko. That was not the case in our region. And Mr. Speaker, it's also good to note that it is on record that there are other areas where there were issues of land disputes, and evictions were to take place. And none other than the Deputy President himself, Mr. Speaker, said that he will not allow the evictions to take place in Okalau. Are the people of Mavoko any less than the ones in Okalau? Or is it true that there are people that are shareholders and that those that are not? Mr. Speaker, on the inauguration of this government of Kenya Kwanza, there was very clear information given to us that from now, Kenyans are now safe, and no one will have their house brought down as a result of a land dispute. It is shocking, Mr. Speaker, that the worst case, the worst ever case from the history of this country, of demolitions of people who are innocent, has happened only 11 months after this team of leadership of Kenya Kwanza was sworn into office. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead that we look at it from this perspective. There may be people that are capable, Mr. Speaker, and that is why DCI is getting involved, ESCC is getting involved. We know there were letters that were being thrown out from long time ago for people to be investigated. But, Mr. Speaker, those people whose houses have come down are not guilty of any crime other than purchasing land and putting up a house. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate that this is happening to our people, and I want to ask that the government do what they said on the time of inauguration. Let them take care of these Kenyan hustlers. Let them make sure that those people whose houses were brought down are supported by being compensated, Mr. Speaker. Let them be compensated. Let them not have worked so hard to put up an abode for their families. And that all goes to waste, Mr. Speaker, at a split of a second. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say that it was also unfortunate and shocking when we saw that East African Portland Cement, after bringing down almost 10,000 homes, were now purporting to want to sell the land to the people that were occupying that land. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate. It is shocking. It is something that this House must condemn in the strongest terms possible, and it is something that we must say should never again happen in the history of this country. It is a shame on us, even as leaders, for this country, many years after independence, for this kind of situation to take place. And we as leaders must stand up to be counted. We must defend the rights of the people. We must represent the people. We must legislate on their behalf, Mr. Speaker. And I think we have enough laws. All that matters now is for us to represent them and say enough is enough. And no further demolitions of innocent Kenyans' homes will take place in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The leader of the minority party in Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, let me join the Honorable Robert Mbui in condemning, in the strongest terms possible, the atrocities which have been meted by the state against the hapless dwellers of Mavoko in the recent past. Even as we speak, Mr. Speaker, the demolitions are ongoing. Mr. Speaker, court order or no court order, no sane government, and I'm saying it, I'm calling it government because the police were there. The police were mobilized to go and watch over as people's dwellings were brought down. No sane government on earth can participate in the kind of destruction of human settlements in the manner this government has done. Mr. Speaker, under the international law, displacement of displacement of populations, subjecting human beings to inhuman treatment are crimes against humanity. So what the Kenya Kwanza government has done to the dwellers of Mavoko in the last 2-3 weeks amount to crimes against humanity. And I want to warn whoever has been involved in this, court order or no court order, that the law will catch up with you. The law will eventually catch up with you. Mr. Speaker, we have been told that there was a court order. But even as we say so, which government can subject human beings to a treatment which even wild animals can't be subjected to? Mr. Speaker, even the KWS, when they want to transfer elephants, lions, zebras, they treat them in a more humane manner than the manner in which this government has treated the inhabitants of the Mavoko settlement area. And there's no point of order, Mr. Speaker. This is a very serious matter that you don't want to trivialize.
Honorable Naomi Wako, you are going to speak immediately after the minority leader.
Just relax, yes.
Yes, so let us speak without interruptions,
Mr. Speaker,
unless there is a clear breach of the standing orders.
The least that any sane government would do is to give such homeowners a reasonable notice. Not a notice to eventually evict them, but a notice to allow them to come to some kind of agreement or settlement with whoever is laying claim on the land. Mr. Speaker, this land that is being claimed by the East Africa Portland Cement has a long history, has a very long history. And we know for sure that the reason why the government is in a hurry to evict these persons is because they want to put Portland Cement for sale. They want Portland Cement to be bought by these cartels. The cartels in Kenya Kwanza have lined up to buy Portland Cement, and therefore they want that the time they'll be buying it, they should buy it together with the land. The intention here is to clear this land of inhabitants, to clear this vast land of people who have settled on it, so that by the time they acquire, by the time they grab the Portland Cement, they can grab it together with the vast land. That is the issue. And I have to tell you today, Kenya Kwanza, that what you have done will go down in history as the cruelest thing that any government can ever do to its citizens. Mr. Speaker, you cannot treat Kenyans as wild animals. You cannot evict people when schools are about to start doing exams. Class 8 pupils, Form 4 students, Class 6 candidates are supposed to start doing the national exams in a matter of weeks, if not days. You cannot evict such people. Mr. Speaker, you cannot demolish churches, the houses of God, and yet you proclaim to be God-fearing people. What hypocrisy is this? What hypocrisy is this? You proclaim on one hand that you are God-fearing. Every Sunday you go out there masquerading as Christians, and yet you evict people, you demolish their churches, you demolish their schools. Mr. Speaker, this in
Honorable Wandai, your time is up. You have 2 minutes because you are a leader. Only because of that. And I'm only doing this.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Let me say this, Honorable Wandai. Honorable Wandai, this is an adjournment motion. It was not timed, so based on interest, it can go up to 9. That is why I'm requesting members not to unduly intervene, because each member speaks for only 5 minutes. All of you can speaking anything, so long as nothing is out of order. So accommodate one another as much as possible. We have all the time for all members I see in the House. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, we are seeing now other busybodies taking cue from the Mavoko incident. We have heard that equally there is a possibility of people being evicted in Njiru. Is the member addressing me or the speaker? But you can't, let me continue. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow this culture of impunity to take root in this country under our watch. We are saying that Kenya Kwanza must be called out for getting involved in this kind of atrocities against helpless citizens of this country, who they promise to protect. If you cannot protect an innocent home dweller who has taken a loan from a bank, from a SACCO, to put up a home, who then will you protect? Is this government meant for the cartels, or is it meant for the whole country? Is this a government that is simply going to be serving the interests of the cartels in it, or is this a government that can be trusted to serve the interests of all citizens? We don't want to know who bought the land first. We don't want to know who owned the land first. We don't want to know how the land was acquired by.
Honorable Patrick Makau. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
The Honorable Majority
even
Leader.
before I speak, Honorable Speaker, even before I speak, may I urge my honorable colleagues that allow me, I bring in some perspective that will help all of us. In our language, we say the believed does not speak a lot. But today, I want to bring some history about this land of Mavoko. And I urge Kenyans, we approach this issue with a lot of sobriety, no emotions, because it's going to address a lot of evils from all the agencies that are concerned with land dealings in this country. Mr. Speaker, I am the MP Mavoko, and I want to tell this House, I have institutional memory of that constituency, and not forgetting that this land in issue, the land in question, Portland has its land. Portland has got many parcels of land. And the only parcel that is in question is LL 10424. So members, as we speak, let us not have a blanket condemnation of how many LL numbers we are addressing. The demolitions happened on LL number 10424. Honorable Speaker, members remember who are here on the 11th, during the 11th Parliament, that I brought a petition in this House requiring the Committee on Lands to have Portland surrender its mined land with letters which were signed by the board, and they agreed that they have had 2,000 acres that they have mined, and they are ready to surrender to the local community. Honorable members, one thing we should understand is once land is surrendered, as per Article 67, it goes back to NLC, National Lands Commission, who in turn surrenders it to the local county government of that area. Then the local county government of that area decides the land use. The LL number I brought here was 8786, stroke 144, 145, and 146. And Mr. Speaker, we agreed with Portland, and it was agreed by even the then Committee of Lands, Department of Lands, led by Honorable Mwiro, that they were ready. We went ahead, NLSC agreed, the then Interior Minister, Mr. Ngaiseri, agreed, and that was agreed that they're going to give out the land. Mr. Speaker, however, during that time, the LL 10464 was in existence. However, and I want members to note, this land in question was owned or was claimed by Portland and Aimimalu Kenya. Aimimalu Kenya had a title for that parcel of land summing to 4,298 acres. Mr. Speaker, we must ask ourselves, where did Portland get this land? I agree with speakers that this land belonged to the people of Machakos County before it was allocated to Portland. Now, there must have been people who are living there. This Aima Lugana claim that their grandparents were buried there and they're the ones who had that land. Mr. Speaker, what we should be asking ourselves is, since 2013, when the new government of Machakos came in place, they are the ones who started approving buildings. They were collecting rates from the same parcel of land. Mr. Speaker, today you know you cannot open a file in any county government without ownership documents. Mr. Speaker, and that's why I'm saying there is no way you can build in any municipal or city in this town without approvals from the county. Now, if since 2013 to 2023, the county government of Machakos has been approving these houses, at what point did Portland know that it was not their land? Number two, these were two entities competing for one land, Aimima Lukenya and Portland. Now, if this case went to court, for the court to determine who are the rightful owners of this land, Mr. Speaker, the owners of these houses had, and they claimed on national television that they went to banks using the same title, they were given loans, they were being used by county governments for approvals, they went for search, and they were coming out with the right title deed. Mr. Chairman, I condemn with the strongest terms possible the demolition.
Honorable Mavoko, because you are keeping to facts, not inflammatory statements, I'll give you 2 minutes. But wind up because the
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the big
leaders
question
are
is,
requested to speak.
Mr. Speaker, even as we speak here, the Minister of Lands must be held culpable. Why did they issue 2 titles on one parcel of land? Why were the county governments approving these houses on the same title deed? Mr. Speaker, we know the government is the issuer of title deeds. They are the ones who verify. They're the ones who nullify. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the title which has been given to the court belonging to Aimia Lukenya, was issued 1980. The one of Portland was issued 2022 and 2023. Mr. Speaker, sometimes we must agree, and I've said it, and I'm saying it again. Had we had a dialogue with the various interested parties, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, this could not have happened. At least we should have saved those houses. And Mr. Speaker, those Kenyans are very innocent. Today, to build 10 by 10 is very expensive. Mr. Speaker, also, this is not an issue which should not be politicized. Mr. Speaker, I am the MP Mavoko. I represent pastors, MPs, thieves, and everybody. So for me to go and answer for a call of crime, Mr. Speaker, you should not associate me with that. Mr. Speaker, there are processes of buying land. If there is anybody who can point a finger at the MP Mavoko, let them point a finger, bring out trails and show anything. But Mr. Speaker, we must be alive to the fact that titles are issued by Ministers of Lands, they are verified by counties, even Kenya Power had put power lines there, water was put there. Where were they? Why are they making Kenyans suffer? Because of political differences, because of political divides. And I'm ashamed by members of parliament who come from Mukambani and they were not even in support of the community. Mr. Speaker, at one point, and I love Kenyans who go back sometimes. If it was Ishungwa, and I respect it. One time I saw him in Kikuyu saying, my people of Mavoko should be respected. They should be...
Honorable Patrick Makau, your time is up. The majority leader proceed to make your contribution. You take precedence over everybody else in the House.
Thank you, Honorable
These
Speaker.
people making requests like Honorable Joyce Kamene, we'll have to wait until the Honorable Majority Leader is done.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You know, Honorable Catherine Omanyo, you need to understand your constitution and understanding orders. It does not matter how long you've been in the House. When the majority leader and the minority leader come in, everything stops until they're done. Proceed, Honorable Ichung'wah.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I hope she's well advised. Honorable Speaker, let me first say the Honorable member for Mavoko had started very well, but has finished in a very unfortunate manner by attempting to disparage members of parliament who represent their people on the basis of their ethnicity. than those who are from Ukambani. It's rather unfortunate, and we should not make this adjournment motion to be an issue to do with ethnicity or indeed political affiliation. And that is why I'm here to debate on the adjournment motion. Honorable Speaker, I have listened keenly to what the two leaders, the leader of minority and the deputy, were saying, and I was listening to them from my office. And I'm rather perturbed, Honorable Speaker, that senior leaders like the leader of minority can say that they do not care whether or not there was a court order, that you do not care who owned the land, you do not care who bought the land first ahead of who. And he speaks about atrocities. Yet we have seen our colleagues in the minority, especially those who come from the ODM party, want to fashion ODM as a party that stands at the forefront of the fight against corruption. How then would you not care when public land is being grabbed? If there are people who are visiting atrocities on the people of Mavoko and anywhere else, it is land grabbers who are grabbing public land with impunity. Honorable Speaker, we must also bring to question the role of government officers in land grabbing. When land was being grabbed from Portland Cement, because there is no question as to who owns the land. The land is owned by the East African Portland Cement Company. And even the Honorable Robert Mbui knows that. He also knows that there are leaders, current leaders and former leaders in the region, including former members of parliament, former county council chairmen, former councillors who grabbed this land and have sold the land to innocent buyers, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is one thing to come and pontificate here and in political rallies and funerals on the fight against corruption, then come to this house and seek to defend corruption and land grabbing. If there is anybody visiting atrocities to the people of Mavoko, it is the leadership within Machakos County that has perpetuated the grabbing of public land, and a county government that continues to approve buildings on land that they know is not owned by the people who are seeking approval. How did they build houses that are approved by the county government of Machakos without requisite ownership documents, including a title deed? Those are the people who have visited atrocities on the people of Machakos and Mavoko. The governor Machakos County, former chairman of county councils in Mavoko, like the member for Mavoko, who is a former chairman of the county council, must be held to account. They must tell the people of Kenya how and when was this land grabbed, what were their roles, because you cannot hide behind politics, as I have seen the Honorable Robert Mbui attempting to do in raising issues about where people are being evicted. Robert Mbui were with you in this house when the Uhuru Kenyatta government evicted people from Mathare on the sewer.
The majority leader will have 2 additional minutes to conclude.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was saying the Honorable Robert Mbui sat with me in this house just like the Honorable Pio Andai and the member for Mavoko sat with me in this house in the last regime, under the handshake regime, when in the midst of the COVID pandemic, you mobilized tractors on a cold, rainy night to demolish houses for the people in Mathare and Ruaraka. And you never condemned, you are cheering. I do not stand here today to cheer the demolition of houses. I stand here today to tell you, you must never ever defend corruption. You must never defend land grabbing. You must be at the forefront as leaders in this house to defend the sanctity not just of a title deed, but also the sanctity of court orders. The leader of minority cannot say he does not care whether there is a court order or not. What will happen tomorrow, Honorable Speaker, if people invade the Honorable Pio's 2-acre farm in Ugunja, or his 20 acres, and and he gets a court order to evict them, and he can't evict them? Government must be allowed to work and enforce court orders just like any other. Honorable Speaker, amongst the people I have heard in the recent past, you remember last year there was an incident where people invaded Uhuru Kenyatta's land, and I had said, Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from this lady from Busia, who has a penchant for shouting
Order,
a lot of
Catherine
things that
Omanyo.
makes no sense to anybody.
Order.
Protect me from the lady. And you know, I once said something about her hair. Now, don't make me say something about your teeth.
Honorable Catherine Omanyo. Majority Leader. Order. Order, Honorable Catherine Omanyo. You talk to the House through the Speaker. And I've said each one of us will be heard in silence. The Majority Leader, you have 15 seconds to wind up.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying only recently, last year, when Uhuru Kenyatta's land was invaded, and I had issued a caution, Honorable Mwenje reminds me it's this year, and I had issued a cautionary statement to Uhuru Kenyatta and his family. Honorable Speaker, you heard the other day the chairman of Mungiki asking his members who invaded Uhuru's farm and stole his goats or his sheep to return them, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, if we can defend, and I can stand to defend Uhuru Kenyatta's right to own land, we must equally defend East African Portland Cement's right to own land and hold its land peaceably without anybody defending those who have grabbed the land. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, let me say this. The leadership in Machakos County must come clean. It doesn't matter whether it's from pre-independence or after independence or from...
Honorable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me also start by also conveying my sympathies to the families who suffered the demolitions. Honorable Speaker, you know, it is a known fact that two wrongs don't make a right. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at the history of this country, demolitions have been very expensive to families who are involved. And I remember during the campaigns, Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza government, one of the things they used to armor our former president with was the issue of demolitions. I remember they did state very clearly that no Kenyans will suffer in the future after they take over the way demolitions were being done by the last regime. And this was basically because of the associated human rights issues when it comes to demolitions. Honorable Speaker, I've listened to the leaders in this House make their statements. And at times I wonder, do we really feel what the people who are really affected are feeling? Are we really representatives of the people? Because the question is, when I see my friend, Honorable Makau, making statements, Honorable Makau is the MP Mavoko, elected by everybody who votes in Mavoko, Honorable Speaker. And that means is the voice of that particular constituency when it comes to matters representation. And anytime he talks, we should see him that way. Honorable Speaker, we must lay this blame where it belongs. Honorable Speaker, the truth of the matter is, the custodian of title deeds in this country is the Minister of Lands. And there are people who know which land in this country belongs to who. And Honorable Speaker, I want to explain a scenario. And I want to be excused because these are some of the scenarios we must explain to put the points forward. In a situation where a woman gets pregnant, Honorable Speaker, it is known very well that even if you do what as a man, she can't conceive again before she delivers. Conceive again before she delivers. That's a fact. It's a biological fact. What I'm saying, Honorable Speaker, is if I have a title to a piece of land in this country, how come that there's a situation somebody else can have an access to a title to the same piece of land? We need to make it to that level, Honorable Speaker. A level whereby, once I have a title written Honorable Makali Mulu, no other Kenyan should have that title to the same piece of land, if people did their work properly. So the question is, I think time has come, Honorable Speaker, where us as leaders of this country, and I think, Honorable Speaker, every part of Kenya, every corner of Kenya is represented in this House. So, Honorable Speaker, when we make our statements, anytime we are discussing national issues, we need to bear in mind that the whole of Kenya is represented in this House. That's all I want to beg honorable members, that can we rise above our basic bipartisan approach to issues, matters political parties. The people of Mavoko, and I want to tell you for sure, very few Kambas had their houses demolished in that place. It is Kenyans who suffered, and these Kenyans come from all this part of country. It is Kenyans who suffered because they bought land. Yesterday, we did see, Honorable Speaker, the issue of Krema land in Rwai. People have built, they have been that land for over 10 years, 15 years, and then one day you are being told that title belongs to Lima family. And you also have your own title. So to me, I think, Majority Leader, what I want to plead with you, and this is not for this government only, I think we can do a review of what has happened in the past, and we establish who are the original title owners of the land, and once we establish that, Majority Leaders move to the future, we make sure that never again in the history of Kenya we'll have one piece of land having more than one title. If we go that way, we'll be helping Kenyans, and this country will be on the right direction. With those many remarks, I submit, Honorable Speaker, and I was asked to help the people of Mavoko. Those who have lost their houses, they must be.
By you. Honorable Moses Kirima to make his contributions.
First and foremost is that I pass my sympathy to the people of Mavoko. Honestly, it's very sympathetic. It's a situation which every Kenyan should understand, especially the people who have been surviving on mager earnings. Because to put up a house to an extent of which I saw the kind of buildings which were being demolished, it was a sympathetic situation. But now, Mr. Speaker, sir, we must come to the point, who are responsible? Who made those Kenyans to suffer the way they have really suffered? We cannot just point fingers to a few, because by the time one comes to own land in Kenya, there is a process. I've been an advocate for quite a period, and I know very well that, one, you must have an agreement to possess a piece of land. When we have vendors and the purchasers, there must be an exchange of documents. Now, who used to own these documents without blaming or pointing fingers to who is who? It's true that Kenya is full of cartels. And in one or the other, there has been duplication of titles if you go to the land registries, whereby you'll find a party as an original title, and then the others who come through other methods and they end up having other different titles. And now, if you are not careful enough, you are going to buy a duplicated title, and you are going to be a sufferer. So we cannot say that these owners of these houses be compensated, because the first question will come, by who? To me, I'm saying that those vendors who sold these pieces of land, because there must be agreements, where they came from, they must be scrutinized. And then whoever sold the land, if he is in this house or not, if he has returned or not, he must be capable as it is in the Constitution. He must be liable. he must compensate those people who have lost, because they have lost their lifetime earnings. One, for a title deed, or for a plan to be approved by a county government, you must produce a title deed. But still, let's not forget, there can be undue influence whereby we make calls to the people who are approving this, who are approving the plan of the MBQs. And when you make calls as an MP or anybody else who is of influence, I tell you, approval will be there. Then you will be promising that status will fall. So what we are saying is that court orders must be obeyed in one or the other, because without court orders being obeyed, I tell you, we are going to be in anarchy. This is not the first or the last case which this house is going to hear. We have a similar case in KU, whereby there is a Kamai area. It's invaded by very rich people. It has been, because they have been promised that they are going to be purchased or there will be negotiations. Even this area, of which the court is here, Mr. Speaker, is saying that there will be no point of order. If majority leader has a house there, I guarantee him is going to face the same problem. But what I'm saying is that, Mr. Speaker, sir, no, I'm not intending, I don't want to be informed. What I'm saying is that, like this Kerema issue, if the family of Kerema is not willing to be talking with those squatters who are there, the court orders are to be obeyed in despite of the consequences. So what I am saying is that the court orders are going to be, we must respect the court. We must respect the law as it is. But I don't want to be informed. And the Speaker said that there will be no court, point of order. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that sympathy.
Order, Honorable Karima. Do you want to be informed?
No, I'm not interested. No, because I know.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I was seeking to guide my brother, Honorable Kirima, and he said he doesn't desire to be informed, and he is completely out of order. Because the debate before us is the land in Mavoko, not KU and Kamai. Because the KU case, Honorable Speaker, unlike this East African Portland case, is a case where KU has already agreed with the squatters that they will get a share of the land and they move away from the rest of the land. Therefore, it is extremely out of order for the member, the honorable member, to be misleading the House and indeed the country, because that is what makes everybody feel that there is unfairness. Because even the people of Mavoko, Honorable Speaker, if they were able to sit and negotiate with this East African Portland as squatters, as genuine squatters to get a part of the land, it has happened. Honorable Speaker, I can tell you, I have bought land myself using those share certificates.
Are you still on a point of order?
Now, Honorable Speaker, just to clarify, I have bought land in Nairobi on a certificate, but I knew the certificate is not a title, doesn't confer ownership to me. We went and negotiated with the owner of the land in Embakasi, and the member for Mboni is here, he can bear me witness. We were squatters with him. We negotiated with the owners of the land, and we paid for value. We paid for the land, and we ended up getting title documents. That is what we should be encouraging our people to do. When you occupy land that is not yours, negotiate with the owner. Pay for value and own the land, but don't discourage anarchy.
Majority Leader, Majority Leader, we don't want members, order members, don't seek to debate beyond your time under the guise of point of order. In fact, Majority Leader was just saying the same thing Honorable Kirima was saying, only that the contexts were different. I hear you to be talking about once a court issues orders, it must be obeyed and it must be enforced. And that is what the Majority Leader is talking about. So I overrule that point of order, and I hope none like that will be raised again. You have 1 minute to conclude, Honorable Kirima.
To conclude my remarks, Mr. Speaker, is that I have been informed by the Majority Leader, but he has misled this court, this chamber deliberately. Mr. Speaker, with due respect to the submissions of the Majority Leader, he has decided to mislead this honorable court, because the KU issue is not what he has directed. I'm so much insist of the matter that there is a section of the squatters which has negotiated with the KU, and that section is already taken care of. But there is another issue, there is another part which has high-rise buildings, and that one is a contention where KU is chasing them and they are refusing to move out. I don't know what Mwafrika and these other people, I don't know if they are owners there, but it is held by esteemed members of this society. But I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, unless we take care and honor the court orders, as my time was taken away by the majority leader, we are going to have the Zimbabwe.
Honorable Nelson Wamboka. And members, remember, this is a very important motion that has caused Parliament to adjourn other business.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
So could you tell us who has title and whether there are titles and when they
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to join my fellow members and sympathize with the people of Mavoko who are now homeless because of a government they voted in power. Honorable Speaker. It is surprising that the Honorable Majority Leader now is talking of respecting court orders. The same courts that said Azimio protests were legal, and they went ahead and splashed tear gas, canisters, and killed innocent members. It is surprising, and indeed, it's not only immoral, but amoral to the person of the Majority Leader. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, and please protect me from my leaders here. Honorable Speaker, it surprises me that before land changes ownership from one person to another, Ministry of Land has to be involved. It surprises me. It surprises me that even the county government must be involved, Honorable Speaker. In this case, we had a government led by a governor called Mutua in Machakos County, who approved the constructions of all these houses. We had a minister in the Ministry of Lands. When these things were changing hands, where are they in all this? Where are they in all this, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, protect me from the noise-making Majority Leader. Where were they, Honorable Speaker? As we stand here today, the President of Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, when he came to office and he was asked about this matter, he said, we have to find a mechanism, Honorable Speaker, that when there is land dispute, we must look at ways of a win-win situation where people must sit down and discuss. It came from the President. Where is he? Why is he leaving hustlers? Just because the other day, Azimio Brigade was in Kitui and indicated that Kalonzo Musyoka could be our candidate. We are seeing all this. Why now? Don't panic. Don't panic, Kenya, Kwanza government. Don't panic. Why now? Why now, Honorable Speaker? We have a rogue government that does not listen to the cries of its people. We must, by all means necessary, stop this government and make it to start listening to the cries of Kenyans.
Honorable Dr. Naomi Wako, what is out of order?
Mr. Speaker, sir, is it in order for the honorable member to keep calling the current government, the able government that is giving its best to this nation, to call the government a rogue government? And cartels, and they know the cause of all these problems. And they know the cause of all these problems.
Honorable Speaker, in another forum I could substantiate to her what is the meaning of rogue. Nothing is working, not healthcare, not education, not security, even in Baringo. That is rogue.
Honorable Nelson,
English terms.
Honorable Nelson Wamboka, it is not within your powers to determine whether or not you are out of order.
Honorable Speaker, well guided, Honorable Speaker, well guided.
Order. Honorable Naomi Wako, you are going to speak after Honorable Wamboka and prove to them that the government is not rogue. Honorable Wamboka, proceed.
Honorable Speaker, you cannot pull down churches and expect God to have peace on you. You cannot. That is why nothing is holding water now. This government cannot hold water because you cannot, honestly, school-going children, exams are starting. What a heartless government. How do you knock down schools, Honorable Speaker? How do you put down mosques and churches, Honorable Speaker? And that is why it is a curse that is coming to befall this government. And we will continue talking. We will continue speaking. Where I come from, Honorable Speaker, there is a saying where a hyena told a stone, even if you keep quiet, you've heard me. I want Honorable Ichung'wah to go and tell his government that even if you keep quiet, Honorable Ichung'wah, you've...
The Honorable Mary Emase, you are recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. Honorable Speaker, protect me, I have to be heard in silence.
Especially the leadership of the House on both sides. Would you consult in lower tones so that the members can speak to the matter?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know land is a very emotive issue, and just from the onset, I also want to sympathize with the families of Mavoko. I am a resident of Mavoko. My MP has just said he leads leaders, he leads thieves and all. I also happen to be one of his constituents. But Honorable Speaker, we all know that every land has an owner. Every land has a rightful owner. And it is rightfully so through registration. And that is why it is legally recognized as such. But land grabbing in this country, not only in Mavoko, in many other places that have been cited in the past, has been in the increase over the years. And what is saddening is that the people who suffer the consequences of land grabbing are not the grabbers, are not the powerful individuals who grab the land, either directly or through proxies, and they sell this land or allocate it, illegally of course, to innocent Kenyans. And that is the case which has happened in Mavoko. What does this mean? This is a manifestation of a failed institution or institutions. And I'm surprised when my friend Honorable Wamboka was speaking and is referring to this government of William Samoei Ruto, the Kenya Kwanza government, yet we all know that these illegal allocations, grabbing, happened during the handshake government. I have just watched even some of the clips in the social media where some of the grabbers are actually pressurizing the individuals who've been allocated land to go build on it. So, Honorable Speaker, what I'm saying is,
Honorable Mishimoko, what is out of order?
Inform Honorable Emase, it happened a long time from 2013.
Honorable Mishimboko, you cannot inform Honorable Emase if she does not accept. So if you want to make contributions, sit down, you'll make your contributions thereafter. Proceed, Honorable Emase.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have the oversight institutions. This matter simply needs to be brought to rest. Let EACC, DCI, look for the individuals, the powerful individuals who grabbed the land, because it is confirmed that the land belongs to Portland Cement. So the individuals who grabbed this land then allocated it to innocent Kenyans And then they're trying to politicize, use the innocent Kenyans as a politics. That is unacceptable. Let them be looked for. Let those individuals in government offices, we are saying people must take responsibility. If you're given an opportunity to serve Kenyans in any capacity, you must take responsibility. You cannot approve land that does not belong to that individual and allow it to be legally allocated to another individual to suffer. And it is even happening with many other private land. You find an individual knowing that he has already sold land to someone else, continues to sell it to another person, In fact, the Committee on Land must look at the law and put very stringent, consequences, punitive, to deter any further, illegal allocations and preying on innocent Kenyans, and then we begin to use them as bait to politicize, to put ourselves into our cocoons, into our, ethnicity, bring our ethnicity in it. It has nothing to do with that. Our institutions must work. People must.
Honorable Joyce Kamene.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to add my voice into this very painful issue of the Mavoko land. Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Indeed, people were there, they had settled, but for the government to decide to demolish all these houses, I think.
Honorable Joyce Kamene, the majority leader is on a point of order.
Speaker, my apologies to Honorable Kamene for interrupting her contribution, but I rise on standing order number 90 on declaration of interest, Honorable Speaker. Because, Honorable Speaker, when I mentioned that I had been a squatter at one point somewhere, the member for Embakasi West was very keen to listen, and I clarified to him that it was not the matter before the House. And standing order 90, Honorable Speaker, if I read, it says, a member who wishes to speak on any matter in which the member has a personal interest shall, and the word is shall, first declare that interest. And members can read the other provisions of that standing order. Honorable Speaker, I have noted with due respect to members that there are quite a number of members who have an interest in this matter who have contributed without declaring interest. And maybe to advise those who are contributing after the Honorable Kamene to declare interest if you have an interest in this matter. We have heard from the member for Mavoko that they are members of parliament who are constituents in Mavoko, and the Honorable Emase has confirmed that she lives in Mavoko, although not on the disputed land. Therefore, those, Honorable Speaker, you must guide the House that those who have an interest, whether you live on this land or you have invested on this land, you must declare interest. And Honorable Speaker, because I came in after the member for Mavoko had begun his contribution, I did not rise. I should have risen at that point to ask the member for Mavoko that he ought to have declared interest, because he has a personal interest in this matter. You know, he has been summoned by the DCI on matters touching with this land, and he therefore ought to have declared interest before his contribution. I don't know whether he was summoned as a witness or as a suspect. He should have told us and informed the House, so that even as others contribute, they may contribute knowing whether they are addressing either someone who is of interest to DCI, as a suspect, as a witness. Honorable Speaker, I seek your guidance.
Honorable Majority Leader, Honorable Patrick Mavoko, sit down. No, please sit down. You see, the enforcement of these standing orders of the House lies with the seat. So what the Majority Leader is doing is to, I think, assume that the Speaker is not aware of standing order number 90. The fact that the MP for Mavoko was at the Directorate of Criminal Investigation is a matter of public knowledge. And we would not demand he declares any interest unless that was the matter under discussion here. It's not the matter. Of course, he spoke and confirmed he's the member of parliament for the area. and he spoke with a lot of latitude about the details of the matter. I think unless you believe there is some interest which has not been disclosed by him in the contribution, let us allow members to proceed. In any event, Majority Leader, the contribution by the Honorable Patrick Mavoko is now water under the bridge. We are on Honorable Joyce Kamene. Yeah, under the standing orders, you don't raise, and this is a caution to all members. Don't stand on a point of order against a member who is done with speaking. I would consider it disorderly conduct, henceforth. Honorable
Chair.
Joyce Kamene, you will have your 5 minutes beginning now.
Thank you. Gone off. Mr. Speaker, the majority has told us to declare, yes, I am a resident of Mavoko. And my biggest interest are the citizens and the residents of Mavoko. And it is of great concern, and it is very hurting, it is very painful, because I visited the scene and saw the heinous way their houses were demolished. Young children, innocent children. In fact, the biggest concern right now would be the government telling us what it is doing about the children who are supposed to sit for their exams. And nothing has been done so far. They have not even had any interest to know what the outcome of those children is going to be. The second thing is this one, Portland. Portland, I think, does not even sell cement. The work of Portland is to make sure it's selling all this land. And it has been selling for the last 5 years. Portland has received more than 6 billion. And yet, it is the one which came in front of the committee saying that it's bankrupt and it wants to sell this land that now has been, houses have been demolished. Can Portland tell us who's using Portland? Who are these cartels that are using Portland? And have they become that evil to demolish a government that is talking about housing? We saw houses worth billions and billions going to the ground. What are they trying to tell us? We are saying this: the government has to compensate the people that were living in that land. It is the same government, and it has refused to devolve the land issue. All the titles are gotten from Nairobi. Why is it that those transactions are not done in Machakos and Mavoko? Because we also have our departments there. It is simple. We know the cartels that are behind this land and what they are planning to do, but they should remember this land is in Ukambani. And it is ours. And we are demanding it is ours, the people of Machakos County. And it is the CS in this current government who authorized and who okayed for those houses to be built. And this matter started in 2013. And we know very well what was happening in 2013 when two buddies who walked hand in hand in State House, coordinating. I think when that love was there too much is when they decided to do what they have done, and that is why our people are suffering. I don't care what tribe they are, but they should not be treated the way we have seen them being treated. Can the government come up and do a plan of compensation for the people of Mavoko? And the land that is remaining, let it be reverted back to the county government, because it is our land. And it is the government of Machakos who will decide on what to do. There's nothing like Portland. Tuliwapatia shamba, and the shamba is ours as Machakos County. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, honorable members, how I wish you could have the spirit Honorable Makali Mulu spoke with. Because he spoke to a solution we can deliberate upon and profile in future. And so henceforth, could people tell us whether there are dual titles or there were single titles? If there were dual titles, when were they issued? If they were dual titles, were both issued by the Ministry of Lands? And if so, what responsibility should the ministry have to the people? And most of the lawyers here, you remember the doctrine called administrative estoppel. If they built on the property, and I'm just saying this for guidance, I fear even when we adjourn the House to discuss matters of national importance, we talk as if we are just playing politics. I mean, we are talking of Kenyans. Those people I saw in Machakos, I cannot say with clarity on which side of the political divide they voted. I only saw Kenyans. Can we address issues and as a House of Representatives come to solutions? Were those houses built without approval, planning approval? Is it possible that if there were planning approvals, they were given without titles? Were those services being supplied there without approval? And if there were titles and approvals, who are involved and to what extent are they culpable or liable for the damage caused to those Kenyans? Is it true that some of those houses were built using loans? And if so, is it possible banks gave loans without proper documentation? If they did due diligence, did the Ministry of Land confirm that they duly owed those titles? And if so, how do we deal with them in terms of the monies they still owe those financial institutions? I mean, let us talk around those areas. Remember, the Lands Ministry is digitizing title. Could that be a solution we could be talking about? Let us talk issues. May I have the Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I truly would like to sympathize and empathize at the same time with the people of Mavoko. I don't know whether they are canvassed or not, but those Kenyans whose property was demolished. Mr. Speaker, as you have guided, settlement on a prime piece of land in Kenya, particularly in an area of high value, Mr. Speaker, is not something that people just walk in and invade. Mr. Speaker, these are not IDPs, nor are they squatters. These people, from the characteristics of the buildings that we saw, they are people with means. They are people who have a bit of education. They are people who are well versed, even with the kind of property they need to develop. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm inclined to think that these people know what they were doing when they are settling on that piece of land. But Mr. Speaker, if you go to the Ministry of Lands, and we have all been there, Mr. Speaker, there is what is called the original title and the plan. Mr. Speaker, if you go to the Survey of Kenya, and that's where I believe that it needs to start, it will provide the original ownership of the land. Mr. Speaker, there is none of the movers of the motion or the supporters who are disputed that the land does not belong to East Africa Portland Cement. What many of us are raising here is demolition. We need to start dealing who is the original owner of the land, and when this land was allocated to the original owners, and whether this land, the people settled, they were aware that this land belongs to East Africa Portland Cement. Mr. Speaker, as I'm talking to you, and this is on record, Mr. Speaker, I have 3 primary schools whose land has been grabbed and the title issued one secondary school called Silimoni Secondary School, 6 acres of land and 9 titles. If we start talking about the legality of titles, yes, there were 9 titles, but the original owner is Silimoni Secondary School. So the possibility of the people who acquired thereafter the Portland Cement could be having titles which are not the original titles and which have been given out there by land grabbers and brokers. Mr. Speaker, if I'm not wrong, this case has not appeared last month when the court orders of eviction were issued. I believe there were eviction orders which were issued before, but they were never attended.
Honorable Mugambi, I heard the mover of this adjournment motion say that the case that was between the rival owners, East African Portland Cement and another company, was dismissed on technicality, so the issue of ownership never rose. I also heard him say there is no order for eviction. In fact, that was the complaint he placed before the House. Do you have the eviction orders?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But what I'm saying is there could be lacons, because what we saw is the tailor-head representation of this, the houses represented by the party leader Kalonzo Musyoka on the tailor-head. And that matter was also thrown off by the courts. Meaning, Mr. Speaker, the court arbitrated, the court issued judgment based on the evidence that was presented by South African Portland Cement, and therefore it was declared that they are the owners of the land. Mr. Speaker, what am I saying? This land and the people who bought this land, they bought.
You'll have 1 minute, Honorable Indikiri.
These people who sold the land to these Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, they are known to those people who bought the land. And from what we are hearing from the media, they are lended to come forward and they say so and so sold them the piece of land. Mr. Speaker, when these people come forth, now we shall separate the beans from the stones. We can't sit here and start blaming the government. Government has nothing to do with this. In actual fact, what we are telling the government to move with speed, ICC, NIS, all of them, they move with speed and bring to book some of these culprits. I saw some Kamba members, leaders, issuing a statement. And I'm seeing also other Kamba members issuing a statement. What a contradiction. Are we talking about the same thing? There is some.
Honorable Charles Ngusia.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this dehumanizing act which has been committed by Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. Let me join by actually sympathizing, or rather empathizing with Kenyans who faced this atrocity of highest order. Mr. Speaker, we can all agree that the manner in which this demolition was done was totally dehumanizing, and people, executors, actually committed atrocity of highest order we have ever witnessed in history of this country, Mr. Speaker. Sir, when you look at the issue, we have been apportioning blame to very few people who are not even in any way under any capacity of assigning land, like the current member of parliament of Mavoko, Mr. Speaker. We know it is county government which gives absolutely everything, licenses when you are doing a construction, and this issue started way back 2013. We know who was governor, we know who was the minister of land, we know the people who were in government, and without even apportioning a lot of blame on current leadership, Mr. Speaker, We need to know how and when and who executed this matter from the beginning, Mr. Speaker, without even answering a lot of questions. We know the people who are supposed to rather answer this question the Mavoko people actually faced, Mr. Speaker. Let me say, Mr. Speaker, I witnessed this matter, and I personally have a relative who lives there. The child, or rather the pupil, the students have been going to school there. They are waiting for exams, and we have to see a way of relocating them to other schools, Mr. Speaker. And we have not even seen our president actually giving us directives on how these people are going to be compensated, on how these students who their school has already been demolished, how they are going to sit for exams, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what do you expect from our parents who has invested on these students for almost 8 years, and watch just these students, the education going to the drains? You can't expect that student even to sit an exam and pass, Mr. Speaker. This is atrocity, and we need to deserve condemnation of highest order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
are you saying any school was demolished?
Their schools were demolished, churches were demolished.
Public or private schools?
Private schools were there.
Okay.
And Mr. Speaker, some of these students actually are going to sit for exams from 6th of next month, Mr. Speaker. We need to find a way of how we are going to compensate them, even in exam marking, Mr. Speaker. Churches were demolished, mosque, and many other structures, Mr. Speaker. I wish we benchmarked on how NSSF back in Tasia handled the situation when the land was actually invaded, and I'm one of the owners of the Tasia plots, Mr. Speaker. We bought the land illegally, but Mr. Speaker, NSSF
Did I hear you right? You said you did what?
Yes, we got the land illegally, of course.
The
title belonged to NSSF, but NSSF reasoned together with the Kenyans. We came and found out that it is not worthy actually to demolish the existing buildings. You can have a way of negotiation instead of demolishing. Now we have gone back to zero. Mr. Speaker, who is gaining here? Is it the president? Is it the government? Is it... We are just losing everybody. And when I saw people actually who are crying out there, you cannot even apportion and say that they voted for Kenya Kwanza, they voted for Azimio. This issue needs to be totally depoliticized and come back and find a solution on how we are going to issue these Kenyans with at least compensation, Mr. Speaker. And this should come directly to the Ministry of Land, because they are the ones who issued title deeds, Mr. Speaker, without arguing this. And let us not...
Timothy Torite.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very, very important motion that has been brought before the floor of this House. Honorable Speaker, to begin with, when we're in this House, Honorable Speaker, our fundamental role is to represent our people. And it doesn't matter where those people come from. We are here to represent the citizens of this country from every corner of this republic. Honorable Speaker, the issue of Mavoko and the matters of evictions in Kenya indicts the entire land regime in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, there is something called sanctity of ownership, sanctity of title deeds in this country. Honorable Speaker, it puts us off when someone goes to the Ministry of Lands, does a search, is told the land is valid, proceeds to construct property. Thereafter, that person is told that that property is not properly documented. Yet we have only one ministry in Kenya, the Ministry of Lands, the ministry that issues title deeds. Honorable Speaker, these are innocent Kenyans. These are Kenyans that have borrowed loans. There are Kenyans that have gone to the banks, they have secured their loans in banks. There are Kenyans that have built this property using mortgages. Thereafter, they are evicted in the pretext that the entire process of ownership of the land was not proper. Honorable Speaker, I want to speak for those people because it doesn't matter whether I'm in this side of aisle or the other side. The issue of protecting our people cuts across. Honorable Speaker, some people must be held responsible. If they are in this house, then those individuals must be held responsible. Honorable Speaker, if they are in the lands ministry, then those individuals must be held responsible. Honorable Speaker, there has been a joke going around this country that if you need to buy, imagine the level of mistrust that we've had in the Ministry of Lands. There's a joke going around that if you want to buy land in Kenya, one, you consult a lawyer. Number two, you consult a surveyor. Number three, you consult a land valuer. And then number four, you consult a drunkard. Honorable Speaker, that is an insult, an indictment to the land regime in this country. So, Honorable Speaker, those people and this government, we must see a way of compensating those people. It doesn't matter. Those people must be taken care of because it is unfortunate that innocent Kenyans their properties can be demolished. Children are not going to school. Churches are being brought down. Honorable Speaker, I am in this side, but I am here to represent and defend the interest of every Kenyan, irrespective of where they come from. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity once again. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is unfortunate that over 25,000 people have been affected by this. And when we are here, we should be human and feel for others. It is unfortunate that this case has been going on for many years, and this is the time that the court has ruled that the land belongs to East African, Portland, Cement, whatever. And that means the innocent Kenyans have never known the truth of the matter. And matters to do with land, Mr. Speaker, you know very well, that it has affected so many Kenyans, so many people, including many of us here. We have been conned by people, and as you think of purchasing a land and growing your wealth, you land into the wrong hands. And that has happened to these innocent Kenyans. And as I stand, I support them and I feel for them. And especially women, children, school-going children, and the many churches that have been destroyed, the mosques that have been destroyed. And Mr. Speaker, if we cannot talk about the cartels that are behind this, then we are not doing justice. Even if we stand here, we debate, we make noise. We must call out the cartels. We must call out the corruption that has been going on in matters, land, and title deeds. Mr. Speaker, everybody knows that you may be holding your title today, and another person will also have almost a similar copy. And a time comes when you realize that the title that you are holding has somebody else is also claiming ownership over it. And that is why, as a country, we have been suffering because of corruption. And today, in this government, our Kenya Kwanza government, our president has said that he will not condone any corruption. And that is why today, even as we speak as members of parliament, as we stand up for these innocent Kenyans, as we fight for justice to happen, we must also call out cartels, people who are behind this. Mr. Speaker, I know very well, even if I'm not, I don't know a lot about this particular land and what is happening around there. I am sure there are faces behind this corruption. There are faces behind this chaos. And innocent Kenyans are sleeping out. Imagine the season that we are in. It is raining. People are suffering. And children are supposed to sit for their exams. And I'm sure expectant mothers have nowhere to lay their heads. And that is why, as leaders today, we should condemn what has happened and also stand up for the innocent Kenyans so that justice can be found. However, those who are behind this, from the Ministry of Lands to the people who are there and leading these people. The corrupt leaders who are there must be called out so that we know the cause of the problem. When something happens, people blame the government. Why should Kenya Kwanza government be blamed today when this has been going on for over 10 years? We should know the root cause. We should know what happened at that particular time for this to happen today. So even if we say that it has happened in the presence of Kenya Kwanza, the root cause of this problem must be known. And that is why we are calling all the people concerned, so that they can bring out the individuals behind this, so that this can be known to others, that it is not the government, but it is the cartels who are behind this and who are putting them in this situation. Mr. Speaker, it is my prayer that one time, all the cartels in this country, because it is not only on land matters, there are cartels everywhere. The other day we were talking about pyramid scheme, and everybody is crying. Kenyans are losing their monies. Kenyans are suffering because of cartels who are trying to steal from them and who are trying to frustrate their efforts. I stand with these people and I pray that we will soon bring out the cartels and the corrupt leaders in this particular game. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Naomi, and thank you for your tone of address. It's very healing. The Honorable Fatuma Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I stand here to sympathize with the people of Mavoko. Mr. Speaker, my sister who has just spoken said that this problem was caused by the past regime. But I would like to inform the House that when you become a member of parliament, you don't run away from mistakes that happened before, if there were mistakes. The current government should not look for handshake problems, claiming that these things happened during handshake. That is irresponsible statement. That is inconsiderate of those people who are suffering, who lost their money. I saw a mother with a one-day-old child crying and cursing the government. Which government does she know? The government that took oath today is the government that she knows. So we cannot run away from this. Instead of the government doing what they did, the majority who were there, who owned that land with those title deeds that they have today, did not know that that land was grabbed or not. And so as a government, we should have looked into how do we solve the problem. Because now the houses are down. These people are suffering. Then the person who claims to own the land comes and says that we want to sell the land to you and we are giving you the first priority. Mr. Speaker, that is mockery and ungodly. If such a scenario was supposed to be considered, then they should have done that before they demolished the houses. So what they are doing now is just adding insult to injury. And these kind of things are going to happen. Next day we'll hear of another house. Next year we'll hear of another home. We'll hear of another land that was grabbed or not grabbed. The bottom line is, as the government sits down and demolishes these houses, how about those other houses that are there and the title deeds are 3 or 4 out there? This reminds me of a school in Langata Primary. And I remember there's a hotel next to it. And I remember there was a story that that land did not belong to the owner. What happened to that situation? That hotel was not brought down. That school was not compensated when their children or the parents, when their children were tear gassed. They were not compensated. But the same people are sitting in the office. The trend here is, I was supposed to declare, I come from Nyatike sub-county, I own a clean land. I live in Lavington, I own a mortgaged house. So I have no interest in Mavoko. But I am saying, when it affects you, you defend. When it doesn't affect you, you throw emotion and tantrums and blame the previous government. Those who have spoken here spoke with emotions and threats and bad words and unsympathetic words because their houses were not brought down. But let us behave human, let us behave godly, and think of these people. We cannot say that they will not be compensated. We did not grab their land. No, as a government, we swore to protect the Kenyans. Those who had houses there are Kenyans. So is the person who claims to own the land today. So what should be done in case this government does not know that there is something called arbitration? We should bring the person claiming the land and the other person saying he has a right title deed and arbitrate and see the way forward so that majority of Kenyans do not suffer. And if I may use, there is a rule of the jungle that the majority win. I think the person who claims to own the land today is one. Majority were demolished. In such a scenario, we should listen to the majority. The economy is hurting already, and we cannot just give one person priority over poor, innocent Kenyans. Let us be sympathetic with the Mavoko people, and as a government, you inherit whatever you got from the previous regime because you did not come with any constitution. The same constitution you found is the same constitution that will guard wananchi. So I beg this government to consider the Mavoko people and compensate them. It was not their mistake. It was the mistake of the government. And the government is one. The government is not Uhuru Kenyatta or Ruto. The government is not Moi or Kibaki. The government is the government of Kenya. So take responsibility and compensate these people. And again, guard future issues not to happen again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, today we are sitting up to 9. And going by your numbers here, I can assure you, you are all going to speak. I'll even add some of you time. So don't worry. Honorable Kakai.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for giving this opportunity. And first, my sympathy to the affected families. What is important, Mr. Speaker, I have been seeing how casual the legislators have been discussing this matter. Having worked with refugees across the globe, first it starts with IDPs and it ends up to be with refugees. This is a real grave matter. And in the interest of public good, majority are affected. And many of us, in fact all of us, we swore to protect our people who actually elected us. We've seen schools destroyed. We've seen even churches destroyed. We as a nation, how do we expect even the Almighty to bless us if we are even bringing down His churches and mosques, an example? The many children, the women that have lost their home. It's very painful, Mr. Speaker, to get to your home where you had your bedroom and you can't even identify it. And we are sitting here with posturing, some political posturing, forgetting that when we sit here, we should legislate, we should debate for prosperity. Because today, you are sitting on that side of the aisle, tomorrow you're on this side. So I would like us to really, in the spirit, even on bipartisan, I expected that the majority leader, when he was seated here, not to take a certain position, which actually sort of despises the humanitarian component. Number two, this same government, including myself who sits on the housing committee, there is a drive to increase housing, and we are talking about affordable housing. These are Kenyans who have actually taken loans. They have put their homes there. Some of them are retiring. Where do you expect those Kenyans to go? Why kill them that early? And I think it's unfortunate that the majority leader has stepped out. There is a prominent verse that he normally uses, come reason together, especially during the campaign time. How comes this time we could not reason together? What was difficult to sit down as the national or county government with the affected persons and reason together? Now, most important also, Mr. Speaker, ignorance has got no defense. If the county government has been enjoying the taxes that have been collected from these Kenyans, it means that there is a document that is binding, the sanctity of title. So again, the persons responsible, the governor who was there then, the lands minister who were there then, we talked about digitizing the title deeds. What happened? They should be held responsible. We want to create a responsible leadership, and to me, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should use this opportunity to set an example, because this has happened in Mavoko. Tomorrow it will happen in Kiminini, it will happen in Lugari, it will happen in any other place in this republic. So we should use this to set an example such that the public good is protected. And by saying this, Mr. Speaker, I do not mean that I actually condemn land grabbing. I condemn cartels, But we must use this as an example so that it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, if we continued like this, we've created IDPs, our own country on this continent that is creating its own IDPs, yet we are respected within the continent as a country that really respects democracy. But we are creating IDPs, and historically, where you've seen refugees are created from the first step of creating IDPs. Please, let's work in the interest of the public, but let's also hold the ones who are there responsible in the interest of the public good. And what I mean is all the people must be, they must be sort of compensated, all the people who are affected. And the first person is the government, the county government of Machakos, because they've been collecting taxes. This is not the time for us to take political posturing. We must come together as legislators, as leaders, with that humanity, and make sure that Kenyans don't suffer anymore from this, and we should stop it so that it doesn't happen again in this republic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Catherine Omanyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is staggering to just watch families that have worked, fought very hard to the hilt to also own something in their mother nation. We have seen clips of some Kenyans abroad who even work on shoddy jobs and deposit or bring money at home so that when they finally, their contract is over and they finally decide to come back home, they can come home to something. But these are
Minority Whip.
The Kenyans who have...
I hope you are not leaving.
...lost their houses in a second, having built a house for years, and the Kenyans whose houses have been brought down, the churches, every other institution that has been brought down, it is the land grabbers who sold to them. These land grabbers are connected to the land registrar. The land registrar is connected to the county planners. County planners are connected to every other person who gives that stamp called stamp duty. Even now, Kenya itself, for them to get that money, they know that this tax is coming from this parcel of land. And finally, the title deeds are issued. So it is a cartel. One person knows the other and knows the other, and if there is a commission, everybody has their percentage. The Kenyans whose houses have been brought down are not land grabbers. So where are these land grabbers? And what has happened to them? Are these Kenyans safe where they are? Are these Kenyans ever going to get back what they have built for their entire life? Are these banks that we hear some of them are still paying a loan going to give them some sympathy and not go for auction? And even if they went for auction, what are they going to? Because if they take a loan against that house, then it is the house that has been brought down. I just weep in my heart and hope that this government will quickly go dash into this and help these Kenyans who are now IDPs or refugees, because they are now like strangers in Jerusalem, in their own nation. It really is a heavy thing seeing one of our colleagues here with his sunny disposition, trying to give us other things, playing around, joking around. I'm talking about our majority leader. I do not know if he has a home somewhere. If one day his home will be brought down, I think he will change how he talks. Mr. Speaker, as a leader in this nation, wherever anything like this happens, it is good that leaders don't rush into wanting to revenge. It is good that leaders sit down and talk in cohesion, in peace, so that people cannot lose. It should be win-win.
Honorable Manyo, your time will be added. What is out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to raise Order 35, that there is no quorum in this Honorable House. So
we can't hear you.
Just a minute, what is your name?
Honorable George Sunkuya.
Sunkuya, I cannot see you, so I cannot notice you are...
Thank you, but I am
so I've not recognized you. Just sit down. Just sit down. Just sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just said as leaders, whenever we hear somebody has bought land, maybe it was illegally done or legally done, these people have settled with their families. A child who's going to do their exams in a few couple of days, knowing that I'll be going to nowhere, or in a small one room somewhere where she was used to her own bedroom maybe, or we are going now to stay with our aunt. The life is no longer the way it used to be. We are affecting our future leaders, our future generation, by our actions that come because of some revenge or something. We do not want leaders with a lot of vengeance. Let us leave vengeance to God. But these Kenyans must be compensated, and a decision needs to be made to at least get them back to their feet so they can continue giving back to the nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Ms. Mavoko. You will.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
And let me just declare that I want to give lady members first priority because of those other obligations you need to go to. So male honorable members will need to bear with us for some time. Honorable Ms. Mavoko.
Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tunajua katika taifa letu tuna ile mambo tunaita dhulma za kihistoria za mashamba. Na mimi naamini kabla hiyo Portland kuwa na umiliki wa ardhi ile lazima ilikuwa ya wenyeji, na najua hata tukichakura tutajua ya kwamba hawakuipata katika hali ambayo inastahiki. Na mimi niseme Mheshimiwa Speaker, serikali ya nyuma iliyokuwa ni serikali ya Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, na pia rais alikuwa naibu wa rais, kulikuwa na kesi kama hiyo kule Likoni ya shamba la Waitiki. Na kwa wakati huo viongozi waliwaita wakaazi ambao walikuwa wameingia katika shamba lile la Waitiki, na wakaweza kufanya mazungumzo na wakatoa fidia kadhaa, na serikali ikatoa fidia nyingine, na wananchi hawakuweza kufurushwa. Kwa nini Mavoko walifurushwa na kugandamizwa katika haki zao za kimsingi? Jambo la pili, juzi na jana Mheshimiwa naibu wa rais tuliona akitetea wakaazi wa Nyandarua ambao walikuwa wanataka kufurushwa na shirika la railway. Alisimama kidete na akasema hawatafurushwa na watazungumzia mazungumzo hayo. Kwa nini Mavoko waliweza kufurushwa katika hali ambayo si hali ya hadhi na sio hali ya utu? Nataka niseme serikali iko na haki ya kuwapatia Wakenya makazi, iko na haki ya kuwapatia Wakenya elimu. Vipi makazi yatabomolewa? Vipi shule zitavunjwa? Vipi makanisa pia yatavunjwa? Na hali tuko na haki ya kuabudu katika katiba yetu ambayo tuko nayo sasa kama serikali. Kwa hakika nimemnukuu sana Mheshimiwa Rais wakati alipokuwa akifanya kampeni akisema ya kwamba serikali yake haitagandamiza Mkenya kwa njia ya kumfurusha kiholela katika mashamba. Vipi sasa amepata kura, amekuwa baba wa taifa la Kenya, anagandamiza Wakenya katika hali kama hii ambayo si ya kimsingi? Tumeona kina mama wanavyopata shida, tumeona watoto wanavyopata shida. Tunaambiwa hata kama ni kufurushwa, yani njia ambayo inatakana ifuatwe ni njia ambayo italinda hadhi ya Mkenya, italinda heshima ya Mkenya, italinda maisha ya Mkenya, italinda usalama wa Mkenya. Swali ni kwamba kulikuwa na usalama? Hakuna. Tear gas tuliona zikirushwa kila mahali. Je, kulikuwa na hadhi? Swali ni kwamba hakukuwa na hadhi. Vyombo vilirushwa, kila kitu kilikuwa kinaangushwa kila mahali, na hakukuwa na hadhi yoyote ambayo ilifuatwa. Kwa hivyo nataka kusema Mheshimiwa Speaker, sisi tunasikitika kama taifa ikiwa sasa Portland Summit wanasema wanataka kuuza ardhi wakati wamefanya hasara kubwa kama ile, kuwatia dhiki wa Kenya, ambapo hata kuna Mkenya mmoja aliweza kujitoa uhai kwa sababu ya kufikiria gharama ambazo wametumia katika kuwekeza kujenga makaazi na familia yake. Jamani, sisi kama Wakenya tunazungumzia kuwapa watu makazi, alafu kwa upande mwingine tunavunja makazi ambayo wameyajenga kwa miaka mingi katika hali ngumu sana, hali ya kuchukua maloni, kuchukua ile Kiingereza tunasema mortgage. Kina mama wamecheza wamecheza vyama, wamecheza katika vikundi vyao kupata pesa, alafu kwa siku moja tu wanakuja kufanyiwa dhulma kama hiyo. Sisi kama taifa la Kenya lazima tujue sheria ni msumeno, inakata mbele na nyuma. Haiwezi kuwa sheria tu itafanya wakati ni Mavoko, lakini kwa sehemu zingine sheria itakuwa inaangalia mkondo mwingine. Jamani, leo ni Mavoko, kesho itakuwa ni sehemu nyingine ya taifa la Kenya. Hawa wa Kenya tuwapeleka wapi? Wakati uchumi wa Kenya ni mgumu, mwananchi anashindwa kupata chakula, mwananchi anashindwa kupeleka mtoto shule. Leo anakuja kubomolewa nyumba ambayo amegharimu karibu milioni 20 na kwenda juu. Jamani, hilo alikuwa suluhisho. Sasa wanarudi wanasema watauza hayo mashamba. Kwa nini serikali haikufikiria tangu mwanzo? Anayetoa stakabadhi za shamba ni nani? Ni wizara ya ardhi. Wizara ya ardhi ni nani? Ni serikali. Kwa nini hawakujua kama kulikuwa na utepetea na kulikuwa na ufisadi na wakafuatilia jambo hilo kabla ya kufurusha Wakenya katika hali ngumu kama hiyo na kuweza kutesa kina mama na wanafunzi walioko pale? Ni masikitiko makubwa sana, lakini mimi nasema lazima Wakenya wasome, kwa sababu Wakenya wengi huwa hawataki la kuambiwa, wanataka la kuona. Wameona sasa Kenya Kwanza ilipowafikisha. Sisi tuliwaambia ingekuwa ni Mheshimiwa Raila.
Honorable Susan Kiamba, as Honorable Ann Murata prepares, and Honorable Esther Passaris.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me time to contribute to this very important motion. First and foremost, I would wish to empathize with the families in Mavoko for what has happened to them. My first point, Mr. Speaker, in pre-independence Kenya, unless tuko na wazungu hapa, there is nowhere where land was empty land. Every land in Kenya in pre-independence period belonged to people. And it is important to realize that when parastatals came up, people only gave land for particular purposes, for people to use it to benefit their own people. And they never gave away land with full rights of ownership. It is very strange when we see people using the law to own land, deny the real original people their right to own that land. I'm even very surprised, Honorable Speaker. 2 weeks ago, the president was in Tana River, in the Tana Delta. The people in Tana River, there is the land being owned by TADA. The president gave orders that the local people be allocated that land. And then TADA can have the rest. Why couldn't that happen in Mavoko? Are people of Mavoko animals? Are we not Kenyans? Do we have sacred cows in this country? Because even in Tana River, there is that particular order that the land belongs to Dada, and the president has given a decree that those people should be allocated land. I believe the same should have happened in Mavoko. Mr. Speaker, I've heard many presenters say that the demolitions happened because the land belonged to grabbers. Were the houses also of grabbers? Did Kenyans have time, our legal authority, to establish who was the grabber and who was the individual landowner? Why was there all this impatient? Because when you stand up and say this land was from grabbers, I believe it is the role of the government to identify who are grabbers and who are genuine landowners, Kenyans who deserve to have this particular land. You know, one thing, Mr. Speaker, I find very wanting is a lot of lip service of solidarity of Kenyans. When we say we want unity, unity has to be demonstrated through what we do. Because I find it very difficult as a person coming from a community for anybody to tell me about unity when you are killing my people or killing Kenyans. And especially killing Kenyans with a bias. Because now we know for these people who were demolished, they had their houses demolished. Some of them are now suffering. We already have a man who committed suicide based on that. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's in order. I think it's in order for the government of Kenya, whether national in collaboration with the county government, to compensate for the people of Mavoko And as other people, whether they are squatters or whatever the case may be, as other people are being given land, I believe it's in order for those people evicted in Mavoko to get their land. And lastly, you know, I find it very difficult. We are being treated the same way Chief Kevoi was treated. Because Portland, by the way, where Portland bought the land from who? We would want to see the agreement. Or did they come here with land? We would want to see the agreement of Portland. They bought the land from who? Because if the original communities was there, how did they come to possess the title deed? Because we cannot have institutions that are the owners of the title deeds, the owners of the land, while the local people suffer. Honorable Speaker, I think it's very dehumanizing. A house of this owner to start thinking very tribal. Or very, how do I put it? With a lot of partisan party lines. There is no Kenyan who is Kenyan blood that is UDA. Neither Kenyan house that is Azimio. We all need to fight for these Kenyans. And I think if this parliament cannot fight for these Kenyans, I don't know where else they would actually get justice. So I believe this house must get solutions. We can't sit here and mourn.
I'll give you 1 minute exactly. Honorable Murata, I'll give you extra minute, don't worry. So can you conclude?
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, this is one of the highest decision-making organs in this country. And we need either to have the minister here to come and give us an explanation, or we need to make a decision and inform the powers that be that these our people need to be compensated. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ann Murata, you have 7 minutes. You've really waited for very long. So you should be speaking for 5, but you'll have 7 if you can speak. Please do.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I first of all want to empathize really with the people of Mavoko just before I bring in my input. And I've listened to all of us as we share this issue in this parliament. And I think it's a time that we become honest with one another. And I think the debate that we are having now needs to change its course. That us as the leaders of this country need to be very honest with ourselves and speak the truth. Because you see, when somebody comes here and tells us that the land in Ukambani belongs to the Kambas, I'm a neighbor of Kenyatta University and Jomo Kenyatta University. You cannot tell me to come here and say that that land belongs to the people of Kiambu. It does not. Jomo Kenyatta University is the land of the people of Kenya, in as much as it is in Kiambu. So you cannot come to parliament and start telling us the land that is in Kamba belongs to Kamba. It does not. It is a land of the people of Kenya. That one we need to be in agreement. So when we come here and start bringing issues of land belonging to who, some of us will be the highest beneficiaries. But this is not true, because what is in Kiambu belongs to the government. And now what I'm trying to say is this. We have had issues of land, and talking honestly, all of us in this country know that we have had a big problem of land in this country. And what happened in Mavoko is very clear and was put on the table, and all of us are on TV, are on social media, we are seeing what is happening. And we know all what has been happening in this country over the matters of land. And in particular now this land that is at hand. We have seen somebody speaking to these people and telling them, title ni karatasi, jengeni nyumba. So what was this guy trying to tell these people? Can you do this as fast as possible? Because when it comes to issues of demolishing, there will be people who will come to support you. Because when you keep it as land, it will still revert back to the owner. So go and sell it. We have seen the governor who was there then addressing those people, and even the company itself putting a poster there and telling people this land belongs to the Portland Cement. So what I'm trying to tell ourselves is that, can we have an honest discussion? Because here we are talking about lives. Like now we have students there who are supposed to do exams in the next few days. I am in the Committee of Education in this parliament. We need to be sitting and asking ourselves, these children need to sit for their exam. When and where and how? This is what we need to be discussing in this parliament. But when we come here and start putting volumes and talking, trying to buy royalty with our people, and we actually know what is happening. When I see all the leaders from that region speaking very strongly and very highly, and at the back of their mind, they know the true story, because this one has been done by the rogue government officers that we have, who cheated our people and even made them buy land that didn't even have titles, and even went ahead and approved the constructions. These are government rogue officers, and they are there, and they are known. So when we start dragging in even the name of the president is not working in the government of Machakos. There are people who have been given work there to do. So the people we need to be addressing are people like the EACC, the DCI. They need to rush and get the people who did this to the innocent Kenyans and make them pay for every pain that they have caused these people. Because again, we cannot continue every year talking the same thing, doing the same things, the same way, and expect different results. So what we are saying is that the people who sold this land, who are making sure they govern this parliament properly so that this land now becomes a big issue, are the same people that need to tell us who sold this land to these people. Who is this that was approving the selling of this land? When we see all these people brought to the books, then it will go on record in this country that during the reign of Kenya Kwanza government, all these stories came. So can we have an honest discussion? Can our leaders from that region start speaking the truth, because they know the truth, and they know who sold the land, they know how it was sold. We are seeing them involving people and telling them, go build, because when you have put a construction, no one will come there. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I would also want to say the name of God is being invoked in all these things that the church has been constructed. I'm a Christian, and I believe that we speak of a God of order. Our God is a God of order. Even him, when he created the world, he put the boundaries for rivers, for oceans, and for lakes, because he knew there is a purpose for everything. That land is for Portland cement, it's not for building a church, and I'm a Christian. So stop bringing the issues of a church was demolished because the church had to be put in proper land. But then the church owners are not to blame. The people to be blamed is the person who sold that land to that church, and that person needs to be condemned with the strongest word possible. And the people to give us this answer are the people from that region, the DCI, the EACC. They have an answer, and they need to answer this question. So the likes of Robert Mbui, my friend, need to come out clean and tell us who is this in that region that sold this land to these people, knowing very well where it belonged. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Wilberforce Oundo. I didn't hear anything out of order.
Chair, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Robert Mbui, you are a leader in the House. Can you be dealing with that issue when the Speaker is done? I doubt so.
Honorable Speaker,
proceed.
Thank you for this opportunity. And let me thank Honorable Mbui for bringing this matter for debate in the floor of the House, so that the people of Kenya can start getting to know a few issues here and there. And Honorable Speaker, let me also take the cue from the majority leader when he rose that members who are standing to speak must declare their interest in pursuance of Standing Order 90. Honorable Speaker, let me declare my interest that this is a sector, an area I've practiced and I've trained and practiced for over 40 years, so I know the genesis of the problem at hand here. Second, Honorable Speaker, let me also declare I and the previous speaker, the member of parliament for Machakos County, sit in the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, and we have we are privy to some documentation the East African Portland Cement came and laid before us in the committee. So, Honorable Speaker, as I speak here, I want to avoid the politics, I want to avoid the specifics, and probably deal with the wider concept at hand here. And I must sincerely thank Honorable Mbui for bringing this matter to the fore, because it's not the first time, it's not the second time, and it's unlikely to be the last time. And this, Honorable Speaker, the genesis of this problem lies back into around 1990, 1991, and 1992, when there was the infamous reward for people under the days when you were transiting from one-party state to multi-party state. And then by then, KANU was threatened as a party on their strange hold on the leadership of this country. At that particular moment, Honorable Speaker, it was reward time. And I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, I want to give you a very honest example. What shocked me as a valuer, then National Bank was giving out loan free to KANU kingpins. And one of the land they gave a loan to was the roundabout of Jogo Road and Outer Ring Road. So I just want to lay the genesis where the rain started beating us. They gave out, somebody processed a title, superimposed it on the roundabout of Jogo Road and Outer Ring Road. The moment they got the money, they were given the loan, the company they used to get the loan, the records at the registry of companies were destroyed immediately. So 5 years down the line, when the loan was not being serviced, we were contracted to do evaluation for auction purposes. With the skills we learned at the university, we found ourselves at the roundabout of Jogo Road. Money had been eaten and left. So everybody took cue. The KANU honchos, the KANU youth wingers took advantage. And therefore they went to any land that was perceived to be unoccupied, to be vacant, and in a way, what we were calling then, grabbed that land. That mirrors what has happened in respect of the land held that is subject matter here. When East African Portland Cement as a company acquired was given whichever way, through acquisition, through donation, through public guarantee, is now immaterial. They acquired a very chunk of land, and they were supposed to use that land for mining purposes, to mine raw material for cement making. And as my colleagues have indicated here, that in the understanding was they only supposed to mine, once they finish and they exhaust the mine, they were supposed to return the land to the rightful owners, who I do not know who are those rightful owners, yet this land had long been occupied by the settlers. How the settlers got the land is you and me and everybody knows. So obviously, the settlers had land and they had title. And the title, Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, ownership of title is exclusive. You can, not two people can own title.
Honorable Dr. Undo, because you are an expert in the field, I'll give you 3 more minutes.
So, Honorable Speaker, that's why it is important. So that's what I was saying. The way the white settlers acquired land is a story everybody knows. Nobody challenged that title then. When they were leaving, they had the right to transfer that title to any other party that was willing to meet their demands. And that's what happened. Honorable Speaker, after the 1992 case, as I was saying, people emerged in this country, the so-called the land buying companies, cooperative societies. And that's why they would walk into any empty vast of land, entice gullible Kenyans who want somewhere to settle, issue them what they were calling share certificates. Many cases, the matter was regularized properly. In many cases, the matter was never regularized. The issue of the issue of the Eastern Portland Cement, the matter went all the way to the National Land Commission to determine the ownership. It went all the way the courts determine. I can only sympathize with the buyers, innocent buyers for value. And this brings into question now, what do we do with racketeers? What do we do with profiteers? What do we do with those, because of the social influence they wield, the political influence they wield, they're able to entice and have people purchase land knowing that there's no genuine title. That's why the people now, as a country, we must deal with ruthlessly, perpendicularly, and once and for all. And this presents a case example. That's why, Speaker, I've sat here today patiently because I was doing research. As you listen to people talk, it's like an interview. It's a questionnaire they're filling for me. So, Honorable Speaker, this is where now we need, this is where all the security agencies, this is where the government now needs to weed out this group. We have the other parcels of land, the criminal land. We have so many other such cases in this country. I therefore urge soberness. And I want to ask the Committee of Lands and Physical Planning, now this is the time. They need to show their expertise in land matters, land administration matters, land information management system matters, to resolve this matter once and for all. Finally, as I conclude, government is a government in perpetuity. Government is a government in perpetuity. The current government cannot remain blameless. These things were done in the name of the government. During the campaign, we were very categorical that the suffering of people through enforced eviction, we need to address. And I thought, Honorable Speaker, there was actually an act of parliament on how to deal with eviction, whether it is through illegal eviction, lawful eviction. If there isn't such an act of parliament, I want to throw upon, again, the Lands Committee to develop that bill so that whenever we even have disputes, there must be a humane way to evict people. We are talking about housing. Any houses, any structure that houses people demolished, that's reducing the housing stock in the country. We cannot run away from that fact. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge my colleagues, this should give us an impetus to change the law, should give us an impetus to strengthen our land administration system, must give us an impetus to debate what constitutes title, what constitutes sanctity of title. What is it are you looking for? It's not just the space that matters, it's what is the interest you hold in respect of that space that matters. So for all those who want to go and buy land, failure to consult a consultant, an expert at that particular moment, might be cheaper for you, but cheap is expensive in the long run. There can never be any substitute in consulting a consultant in whichever way, and an expert in whichever way you do. Thank you, Honorable Mbui. We hope now whoever listens has listened, and as you said, even if they don't listen, we have talked to you. It's upon us to pick up from here and resolve these matters once and for all. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Dr. Ivo Bara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to the motion. Mr. Speaker, at onset, I want to condemn in the strongest term the destruction of property. I'm not calling it demolition. I'm calling it destruction. Because what I saw, I would not wish it on my enemy. Mr. Speaker, yes, I've listened to the expert, but the question is, the kind of infrastructure that we saw being demolished in Mavoko, surely you could not put in all that money, knowing very well that it is not yours. Members here have told us that they paid taxes, they paid rates to the county council, to the Ministry of Lands, everything. They were doing the things which is supposed to be legally binding. But nevertheless, properties were destroyed. Mr. Speaker, I cannot reconcile myself with what I saw. The broken people broken men and women, looking at their life savings going down into ashes. Mr. Speaker, up here in Upper Hill, whose land is that? All those buildings that we have in Upper Hill, whose land? They were given by the government. Railway here, whose land was it? Government land. Go to Eldoret, ADC, whose land was it? Government land. My question is, who is Portland Cement? Portland Cement belongs 52% to the government of Kenya through Treasury and NSSF. 52%. 42% belongs to Lafarge. 6% belongs to Kenyan. Therefore, 58% of that land belongs to Kenyans. Who is government? What do you call it? Of the people, for the people. The government has the moral authority to solve the issue of Mavoko. They have the ability to solve the issue of Mavoko. They didn't have to wait for those properties to be pulled down and then talk about arbitration. When do you arbitrate? How could the judgment have been made, Mr. Speaker, today, and the following day, we have the bulldozers on site? It means that somebody had the script of the judgment. Somebody had it. And somebody was waiting to do what they did. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, this is the time that we call for compassion. It was lacking. This was a time that people should have looked at their consciousness when they were pulling those houses down. The schools, the timing. Exams are about to start, schools are being pulled down, churches are being pulled down. The timing, people are going for Christmas and you're homeless. Being a predominantly Christian country, we celebrate Christmas. And we are pulling down houses 3 months to Christmas. Where are they going to go? Mr. Speaker, I did not see the compassion. I did not see people's conscience being pricked. Mr. Speaker, I saw cold-hearted Kenyans destroying homes of other Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, my question is, what happened to our value system as a country? What happened to our value system? It's a time for reflection. And as my colleagues have said, we need to look at this matter soberly as leaders of this country. Thank you very much. I call for arbitration, and I call for people to be compensated for loss of property. Thank you very much.
Honorable David Mboni. Honorable Esther Passaris, you'll follow. Honorable David.
He said Mboni, not Passaris.
I said Honorable Esther Passaris will speak after Honorable David Mboni.
Thank
So
you.
proceed. Your time is running out.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also join my colleagues in sympathizing with the situation in Mavoko. Mr. Speaker, we all know that land acquisition in this country is very risky. Most of the land, actually in the eastern part of Nairobi, has no title deeds, and there is a lot of double allocation. Mr. Speaker, Minister of Lands, I think, is the most corrupt ministry in this country. And if this government really want to fight corruption, the way they are saying, they should fight corruption in the Ministry of Lands. A lot of people have lost money because of what's happening in the ministry. In fact, I'm a victim. I bought some land, put up a building. Later, I realized the land did not belong to the person who sold to me. But the person was very needed to me because he came back and told me to buy the land, and we agreed on the price. I'm actually still paying. The Minister of Planning, Minister of Lands, a few years ago, there was a government attempt to digitize land records. But because of land cartels, this process failed completely. And this is the process which we thought is going to clean the land registry. The records were supposed to be digitized, put in a computer software form, and if you want really to check any title deed, you could be able to verify. Let us face the facts. The Mavoko land was donated to East African Portland by the Kamba community. The Portland did not buy the land. The land belonged to the community. Now the agreement was the factory, the East African Portland, to mine the limestone and revert back the land to the Kamba community. So we still expect that land to go back to the community. We are aware that under the privatization program, East African Portland is one of the companies which this government is willing to sell. This company, the government is selling. And we are aware the factory, the machines are obsolete. So the target is the land, nothing else. But we are saying as a community, the land belongs to us. In 2014, the then Governor Mutua wrote to DCI and asked the DCI to investigate what was happening in Mavoko land. But the DCI did not do nothing. In fact, I'm surprised. Now they are calling people left and right to come and record statements and accusing people who are very innocent that they sold the land. What did the DCI do at that point? Because at that point, if they intervened, what we are seeing, the situation we are seeing in Mavoko should not be happening. Because they should have been able to stop the land division, that whatever. Who approved the plans, housing plans? Is it the ministry? Is it the county government where the Governor Mutua, who was complaining the land is being divided? Is it the county government which approved the land? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. And instead of looking for few small people, we need to get the big people into this. In fact, I'm sympathizing with my colleague Macau for being accused, an honorable member. How does he sell land? So what is happening? What government, actually what even asks me more is, you pull down people's houses. Then tomorrow you tell them, I'm selling the same land and I'll consider you, I'll give you the first priority. Who does that, seriously? Who does that? The government should not have negotiated with the people who have already put their houses there and sell them.
I'll give you 1 minute.
So the government should have actually negotiated with those people, sell the land to them, and leave their houses comfortable. Now people are helpless, homeless. People have put their money, their lifetime savings, got loans to put houses, and now they don't have houses. Seriously, which government does that? Therefore, Mr. Speaker, these people need to be compensated so that at least they can live a decent life. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mark Mwenje. Oh. Sorry, Honorable Pasaris, would you indulge the Deputy Minority Leader, who was just confirmed today to speak before you?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Let me, first of all, Honorable Speaker, support Honorable Mbui and thank him for bringing this very important motion. Honorable Speaker, when this government was elected, during the inauguration speeches, especially of note by the Deputy President, he promised to Kenyans that the days of inhumane demolitions and evictions will come to an end. That was quoted. That was him speaking. Honorable Speaker, there was nothing humane about what we saw in Mavoko, Honorable Speaker. It is also important that I remind those in government that claim that 47% of those who voted came from Mount Kenya. Quite a significant number of people who were demolished were from Mount Kenya and voted for this government. So that is something we must always remember, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there was a court case. This court case did not run to its natural conclusion. Normally, there is an eviction order, there is a notice, there is a period that is given, Honorable Speaker. This did not happen. And Honorable Speaker, whenever we've seen these kind of orders, there is always some form of notice, some reprieve, a chance to go up to a higher court to be heard. This was not the case, Honorable Speaker. And more importantly, Honorable Speaker, these kind of matters create a security risk because what you've done is destruction of wealth. One day you have people living in a home, have electricity, the basic necessities. You have water, food, shelter, clothing, a livelihood. And the following day, all that is thrown away. This creates a risk to even security, to our own security agencies there. That is something, and Honorable Speaker, I want to expand beyond Mavoko, because these kinds of court orders for evictions, they are all over, especially from where I come from in Embakasi. But Honorable Speaker, we've been able to resolve some of these issues. Tasia of note is an area where people settled. There was a land dispute, it was determined, and the people there were given an opportunity to regularize. We have an area in Mailisaba known as Mwengenye, Honorable Speaker, that people were given that chance. This issue of people coming, especially where they were misled by our own government and ended up buying land because they were conned. Kenyans have been given a chance to regularize that. Our own majority leader today spoke of a similar instance because that is the common, especially in Embakasi. People have acquired land through certificates and through other means, but eventually they've been given a chance to sort some of these issues. Honorable Speaker, the failure here is by government, by the land officials, by the administration, and you find it even in our areas in Embakasi, where there's collusion through the government, through the county, through the administration officers, and Kenyans end up getting defrauded. So most of these people who acquire this land, Honorable Speaker, acquire it believing genuinely they are acquiring a genuine title where they can build their lives, Honorable Speaker. And that is something that must always be considered, Honorable Speaker, especially in matters where you are going to destroy the livelihoods of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, this government has been talking about low-cost housing. How can we talk about low-cost housing and we are going to destroy the very houses Kenyans have saved to build with their own money that they've saved for, especially for retirement? So, Honorable Speaker, some of these issues, some of these court orders must be interrogated. Some of these court orders cannot be implemented, Honorable Speaker. The issue that happened in Roi, the court case that determined the matter in Roi, has given an opportunity for those residents there to try and sort out that issue, Honorable Speaker. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, it is important that we recognize we must regularize, allow the position for regularization of land so that those members who find themselves in trouble can be given an opportunity to sort their issues, Honorable Speaker. For the case of Mavoko, I believe innocent.
Did you say you want 1 minute or 2 minutes? You'll be given 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. For the issue of Mavoko, they are innocent Kenyans, bona fide buyers who genuinely believed they acquired good title for those parcels of land. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, in that case, it is the government, it is the land registry that was at fault, that guided those Kenyans, allowed them to build their lives there, and they must be compensated. This is not the time for politicking in this issue. And Honorable Speaker, I must state, we will not allow demolitions. Even in my constituency, Honorable Speaker, we have some similar orders, Honorable Speaker, and we must ensure that we are given a chance to regularize those parcels of land, because if we continue down this trend, Honorable Speaker, we are going to destroy the lives of Kenyans. We are going to lose a lot of wealth, Honorable Speaker, and this must come to an end. Let this government be held to account and keep its promise that these demolitions, which they said will end with the previous government, will be a thing of the past. Let them stick to that promise. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Esther Passaris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker,
the Honorable member who keeps shouting point of order, you know the procedures of the House, how to seek intervention. It is not by shouting point of order. In fact, shouting point of order without seeking intervention, which must be recognized by the Speaker, is itself disorderly conduct and is punishable. Proceed, Honorable Passaris.
Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion. First of all, I would really like to say that as a country, as a government, we failed not just the people of Mavoko, but there's so many historical injustices in this country where houses have been demolished, even here in Nairobi, and we've never been able to find a solution. People pick their pieces, some lose their lives, some get sick with cancer or mental health, because when something so emotive, like having yourself dragged out of your house with bulldozers, having all your property destroyed, having your children look at their lives crumbling down right before your eyes and seeing their parents looking totally helpless, that shows that we have failed. We have failed, and we continue to fail. So what would be the solution? We can give each other, we can blame each other, we can say it's this one or the other one, but at the end of the day, we are all Kenyans. We fought for independence. We got rid of the colonizers. We took possession of our land. We didn't take possession of our land for certain people. We didn't take possession of our land to frustrate people, to harm people, to injure people, to economically destroy people, and including financial institutions. In this country, if you want a loan for your business, you go with your title. Today, banks are not really able to lend you money on titles because they don't trust your title. Now, what happened in Mavoko, I think, was actually a miscarriage of justice. What should have happened, and I really want to appeal to the Chief Justice, who is a mother and a woman. I think we need to stop making decisions in the courtroom when it comes to emotive matters like land, which involves a huge community, and actually take the courts to the grassroots. Take the courts and have an open court. Nothing stops them to go into the grassroots and actually see what is happening. Because when they make these decisions in the courts, right, some of the decisions that they make in the courts, like now we have a decision which will affect and impact a number of households in Nairobi. And they have, the residents of Nairobi and the Karima case have been given up to the 31st of December to move. What I want to ask is, why can't we have a multi-sectorial approach so that when you have matters of land which involve community, we bring, because the judiciary keeps telling us, let's go for alternative dispute mechanism. The judiciary itself can initiate that dispute, the arbitration and the alternative dispute mechanism, and actually bring the Ministry of Lands, bring in the police, bring in the community, bring in the judiciary, and together we look at how we can safeguard the dignity of the people that we are supposed to represent. The people in Mavoko, I understand where they're coming from when they say this was our land. We gave you the land to do business because you will bring some economic gain for our people. This land was sold to innocent Kenyans. The county government gave approvals for construction of houses. The services were provided by Kenya Power, provided by the Ministry of Water, titles were provided by the Ministry of Lands, and then all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you say this land belongs to us. So I was thinking, with all those 4,000 acres of land that East African Portland has, surely couldn't they have actually figured out how to compensate the people, or to actually give this 200-300 acres of land and say, this is your land. We have actually survived and made profits out of this land. So we will give you this land. We will end this court battle, so that the people can actually live in peace. The land that is in Nairobi right now that we're talking about with the Karimas, I really would like the government to seriously look at the Dungu report. We came up with the task force. We came up with the Dungu report. This was supposed to cure the injustices that came up with land. And up to today, we've never implemented the Dungu report. So I want the government to have a humane face. As we're saying, we want to build houses for the people. We want to give dignity to the people. How do we give dignity to the people and the promise of dignity when today we erode that dignity by bulldozing houses and schools and churches? Even if those churches were built in land that was not theirs, how was that church built with a title? How was that church built with approvals? So all of us are culpable. And I think it's important, as a member of the Committee of Lands, we shall do what we can, but we need...
You need more minutes?
Mr. Speaker,
adjournment motions go
yes,
for 5 minutes,
yeah,
except with the leave of the House. And I assume the House is the Speaker. So you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is an item. The land issues are emotive, and we need a multi-sectorial approach. We need to get to the grassroots, and we need to stop actually harming our Kenyans. Our Kenyans need to be engaged in a manner that is dignified, because that is what the government has promised. And we are all part and parcel of that promise, because we are part of the government. So we need to make sure, whether we are opposition or we are in government, that together we uphold the dignity of the people, because it's not enough to come and say we feel sorry for you, because the pain that they're feeling is continuing and is growing, and mental health is real. We're going to have a lot more challenges if we continue being so harsh and rough on the citizens of this country. So I pray that the president and the various cabinet, when they meet, they address this issue, because really business cannot actually thrive when the people of the community are actually being destroyed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Engineer Paul Nzengu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute into this debate. From the onset, I want to empathize and sympathize with the people of Mavoko constituency for that barbaric action that was taken upon them. It's a pity that a lot of people may have lost their lifetime earning through this act of carelessness. And Mr. Speaker, I want to condemn the whole act on the strongest words possible. And I also want to condemn a section of members who took it, who tried to trivialize the whole thing by associating the grabbing of the land so reported to be having been occasioned or orchestrated by the Wiper Brigade, by claiming that the elections of 2022 were financed by the proceeds from the money that was purportedly obtained from this sale of land. I think this was a careless and a mockery. It was a careless statement and a mockery to the people that lost their monies, their earnings. Mr. Speaker, that two wrongs don't make a right. And assuming that there was a problem in that area where the titles were mixed up, or some authorities somewhere made a mistake, does not qualify the people that are affected to have been hearts in the manner that it was done to them. Mr. Speaker, we have examples of land where inadvertently people were misled into buying a land that was not in the right title, but later people were able to sit down, negotiate, and a case in point is a land opposite Balore along Old Airport Road, where I know Kenyans were duped to buy land which had been apparently been issued by the government to the then KANU sympathizers, and the owner then resurfaced later, and I'm privy to the information that indeed the owner was an Indian owner, a private owner, agreed to negotiate with the new landowners, and they were able to agree on a middle path or a middle ground where they negotiated for the true market price at that particular time, and they were able to pay the owner, and the owner vacated possession of that land. So in this particular case, where the land purportedly belongs to the government, the alternative would have been to negotiate with the landowners and the developers and just agree on a market price, and then I'll ask them to be able to buy the said land. Mr. Speaker, the idea of a government demolishing property of its own people, for whatever reason, is in itself scaring the investors, because the individuals don't issue titles. Titles are issued by government, and the government cannot recede on titles that they have issued themselves. So in that case, I want to say that this government is proving to be insensitive to the fact that when you own up and say that these titles that the government issued are not true titles, then an investor who wishes to invest in Kenya is definitely going to be scared, and therefore we are not going to be able to attract investors in this way. And lastly, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Joshua Mwalio.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I want to say that I've been in this Committee of Trade where we have been dealing with this matter, and I don't want to go into the details because I know the details. I want to say that it could have been better if the people that houses were being demolished could have been treated like the way Abraham was pleading with the angels that, that were going to destroy Gomorrah. And Abraham was saying, if you find 20 people, will you destroy Sodom? That is what could have been asked as a question. So that he kept on saying what, that God kept on saying that I will not destroy. That is the formula that should have been used there, because those are Kenyans who live there, and they should have been spared because they were cheated on that land. So the people that cheated them, I saw one saying that, I saw one video which was saying that if we give you this piece of land, you must build something, even if it's a toilet, very fast, so that we have a case. So in other words, the people who were innocent, they didn't know, but they were cheated. So what could have been happening is that sympathizing with them because they have spent money, because they are Kenyans. In fact, the Kamba nation are only 5% who are built there. The rest are the Kenyans who are living there. So it is not a matter of being in Ukambani, but everybody who had money.
Did you say Kenyans or other Kenyans?
Other Kenyans.
Okay.
Other Kenyans. Okay? So it is not a matter of saying that because it is in Ukambani, it is the Kamba people who are built there. No. it is other Kenyans. All Kenyans were there because they were all cheated. They all bought the land. So the people that should have been punished is those guys who are in now, the one who are now in sales, who are going to court every now and then, because they're the one who made something like a society to be able to sell this land to people who didn't know whether they were being cheated or not, and their money was taken. So what I can say is that the compensation should be done, because there are so many parcels of land which have been left there, which were supposed to revert back to the government. Then the people that has houses were destroyed should be given a piece of land so that they can be given free, even to build in one of the parcels of land, if only the parcels of land that was needed by the government is the one which has now been vacated by the demolition. Then the rest can be given to them so that people can just start their lives again, because these are Kenyans and they pray the God that we pray. And I'm sure something somewhere will happen. Even the leadership is a leadership that fears the Lord. They always pray every Sunday, and they will be touched and be able to compensate these Kenyans. So I rest my case.
Honorable Mulungi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to stand with the people of Mavoko during this difficult time. I consider them as NDPs now because they have nowhere to go home. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank the Honorable Mbui for calling for the leave of this House to discuss this very critical matter. Mr. Speaker, I sympathize and empathize with the people of Mavoko because this is a matter that has come as a surprise from a government which they trusted, a government which assured them that it is going to build affordable houses for them. But instead of building affordable houses for them, they came to demolish their homes. It is the sixth wonder of the world, Mr. Speaker, for such kind of a government. And that's why this government is a cursed government, because they never say the truth. They spoke about lowering the cost of living. It is going up. They spoke about lowering fuel prices. They are going up. They spoke about lowering the cost of unga. It has been going up. That is why this government is cursed. And it will continue to be cursed if it continues doing this kind of heinous act. Those demolitions were worse than the massacre of Shakahola. Because how do you go and demolish a mosque? How do you go and demolish a church? How do you go and demolish a school when children are preparing to do exams? It is worse than Shakahola. So, Mr. Speaker, I consider these demolitions as purely orchestrated, planned by Kenya Kwanza government. They had planned all this, and Mr. Speaker, the moment we just started speaking about succession politics in Azimio, the moment we started talking about Kalonzo being the heir of Azimio, now Kenya Kwanza decided to hit the homeland of Kalonzo Musyoka. And that is Machakos. I'm therefore telling Kenya Kwanza, don't be scared. Please, don't panic. We are not a threat. 2027 is coming. We shall be a threat in 2027. Why on earth? Why on earth do you go to Mavoko to demolish houses in Mavoko when at the same week the Deputy President of Kenya is protecting the people of Nyandarua who are living on Kenya Railways land? How on earth? Those are playing double standards. The same week the President of Kenya is in Rift Valley compensating sugar cartels. The same week the President is in Tana River. Mavoko people second class. So, Mr. Speaker, this act is making title deeds look like a piece of paper. And it is very scary. Even some of us who live in houses, we don't know when government will come and demolish them. Because a title deed is now nothing. When you go and do a search, it is nothing. When you go and obtain a title deed from the Ministry of Lands, it is nothing. When you take your title deed to obtain a loan from the bank to build, it is a piece of paper. So how are Kenyans supposed to know that the title deed they are given is genuine? Because if you are given an alert, you will not proceed. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I request
I'll give you 1 minute. We need to be done with this motion.
Mr. Speaker, I want to warn Kenya Kwanza members of parliament from Ukambani who planned a press statement and then dragged Kalonzo Musyoka into this land scandal. This is a land scandal by Kenya Kwanza. We know land grabbers in Kenya are. If we are given the opportunity to name them and the tape on documents here, we shall bring them and then name them. So, Mr. Speaker, I support that Mavoko people should be compensated and the parliament should investigate this matter and come up with a solution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Nabim Nabwera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by, first of all, associating myself with the views of majority of colleagues who ostensibly agree that, one, the issue of Mavoko is beyond being a regional issue, a Machakos issue, is a national disaster. Mr. Speaker, I keep on asking myself two questions in this, during my stay in this parliament. Question one, what did we mean by taking an oath to defend the Constitution? Because, Mr. Speaker, in the national values as enshrined in the Constitution, one of the values is human dignity. The question is, if you demolish a house, get people in the cold, including pregnant women and children, is that human dignity? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I keep on asking myself a question. What is common good? Does what is common good in Kakamega, Lugari where I come from, become common good in Kiambu or in Machakos? Why am I asking this question? Mr. Speaker, for God's sake, all land that sits any government-owned institution is held in trust on behalf of the people of this country. So the question is basic. If the land in Miwani or the land in Nzoia Sugar which we were in this house defending and saying we cannot allow it to be privatized. How different is it from the land of East African Portland Cement? Mr. Speaker, there was a law in this country, or there's a law in this country called public acquisition. That law has been used to get people out of their land for purposes of a particular cause. Now, when you want to understand the problem of Mavoko, look at it this way, that we demolish the houses today, and tomorrow we have an advert that we are selling those houses, and the people being given first priority are the people who are living on those houses. What do you mean, Mr. Speaker? Actually, the management of Portland Cement must be held to account on this. And when you want to understand that this was orchestrated by Kenya Kwanza government, they know very well they have made those people poorer by demolishing their houses. So over them, they will be unable to buy that land. Then the shenanigans of Kenya Kwanza government will go and buy that land. Mr. Speaker, today, we were addressing a presser with Honorable Mukabe. When we were addressing a presser because surveyors from the Ministry of Land, working with a county commissioner called Nyale in Wasingishu, were in Turbo Forest, which is in Lugari and Dikuyani, purporting to survey the land to give to people without public participation, without this parliament exercising the forest. That is what Mavoko is. Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting for an extra 2 minutes. Mr. Speaker, as a country, we must come to our senses. Why am I saying we need to come to our senses? There are actions we take that will have far-reaching socioeconomic impact. An economy that is not performing, a country that cannot meet
Mheshimiwa Spika, kunipa nafasi mimi pia niweze kukemea na kulaani ubomoaji wa majumba uliofanyika Mavoko. Ni jambo la kusikitisha, jambo la kuhuzunisha na jambo la kushangaza. Na mimi nimeomba kuzungumza tangu saa 8:30. Tangu hii ikiwa inakuja nimeweka. Lakini nakushukuru kwa sasa kunipatia nafasi. Na ni kwa sababu tunataka kukemea hili jambo lisifanyike tena sehemu nyingine. Ndio sababu tunakaa, hata ukaweka saa 7 tutakaa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hili ni jambo la kusikitisha. Watoto, akina mama, wazee wametoa machozi pale. Mtoto hajui amnyamazishe babake, baba hajui amnyamazishe mtoto, mama hajui afanye nini. Lakini nakuhakikishia Mheshimiwa Spika, wale wote waliohusika katika ubomoaji huo itawarudia. Iko siku na wao watalia kwa jambo hilo hilo. Na kama hawakulia wao, watalia familia yao, watalia vizazi wao, lakini watalia kwa sababu ni jambo la kinyama sana wamefanya. Taifa ni mahali ambako inalinda wananchi wake. Wanalinda wananchi wake. Mtu amekuja, amenunua ardhi, hakuna mtu amemuuliza. Amechimba msingi, hakuna mtu amemuuliza. Ameanza kuweka jiwe la kwanza, amekata vyumba, amemaliza paa, amevuta moto, amevuta maji, hata wamezaana hapo hapo, wamekaa kwa miaka. Ndio mtu anakuja leo anasema hapa si kwako. Ni jambo la kusikitisha sana, kwa sababu wakati akichimba msingi ulikuwa wapi? Na wengi katika watu wale, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni mikopo wamechukua. Wengine wamelipwa pesa zao za uzeeni. Wamelipwa, wamekwenda kujenga pale maisha yao. unawamaliza hapo hapo, na hasa ukiangalia uchumi vile ulivyo mbaya. Wale watu Mheshimiwa Spika wamejenga pale, wamepewa stakabadhi na serikali za ugatuzi, county government ama municipal councils, wamepewa approval. Kuna halmashauri ya ujenzi NCA, National Construction Authority, wamewapa. Halmashauri ya mazingira NEMA, wamewapa approval. Sasa watu hapa hawajui stakabadhi gani katika taifa hili iko sawa. Mtu anakuwa na title, hata akikaa hana uhakika wa pale, atakuja kuambia hii ni feki. Atakaa halmashauri ile imempatia NEMA, wao wamehusika, wanakuja wanasema sisi hatujui, na waliwatembelea. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii ingekuwa funzo, kwa sababu serikali ilihusika. Wawekezaji, hakuna mtu atakuja kujenga hapa akijua halmashauri inakupa idhini na kesho inakugeukia. Haiwezekani. Sasa tu sheria iko wapi? Mimi nasema hawa watu walipwe. Na utakuta sisi kama serikali kuna kambi za wakimbizi. Tunaweka wakimbizi, tunaweka mahema, sisi tunawekea maji, tunawapelekea chakula, huku Wakenya mnawavunjia majumba na lala barabarani. Haiwezekani Mheshimiwa Spika. Hili ni jambo lazima likemewe, lisitokee sehemu nyingine. Na ningeomba wizara ya hapa ya ardhi hapa iende itembelee hiyo, tuje tupitishe hapa walipwe na serikali, kwa sababu serikali ndio inahusika katika uvunjaji huo na ukosefu wa kumwelekeo kupeleka watu wake. Kwa haya mengi nasema asanteni. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa nafasi. Asante sana.
Fatuma Masito.
Basi asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kuweza kunipatia nafasi hii, na mimi niweze kupiga pondo au kuongezea katika hoja iliyoko mbele ya bunge hili. Kwa kweli Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi pia nataka kulia na watu wa Mavoko vile wanavyolia au vile walivyolia. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wa Mavoko ni majirani zangu. Pale Kwale mimi nimepigiwa kura na jamii ya Wakamba wengi sana, ambao tangu juzi walikuwa wanaona wakisikitika, wakinipigia simu nikiwa nao kwenye mikutano, wanasema Mheshimiwa, ni mambo gani kama viongozi mnaangalia watu wa Mavoko wanauawa wakiona? Hii ni kwa maana kuwa watu wa Mavoko wamepokonywa haki yao ya maisha. Nina hakika kuna watu sasa hivi wameshikwa na maradhi ya presha, wameshikwa na michipuko ya maradhi ambayo hawakuwa nayo kwa sababu ya tendo lile lililotokea. Wakina mama wenzangu wameteseka na watoto kwenye baridi tangu juzi, na serikali bado haijafungua mdomo, imenyamaza. Hii ni dhahiri shahiri serikali imeshindwa kufanya kazi yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, huwezi kumuua binadamu ukiangalia. Umemshikia kisu, unamwambia unakufa leo saa hii. Mtu wa Mavoko Mheshimiwa Spika, unafikiria siku ile alisikiaje? Yeye anajua ako na hati miliki ndani ya nyumba yake, ana mkopo, amewekeza, anajua maisha yake yote yako pale. Leo hii unamwambia wewe huna makao. Mheshimiwa Spika, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza imeshindwa. Na ndio maana saa nyingine natamani hii serikali tungechukua sisi watu wa Azimio chini ya Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga ni mtu mzima, ni mtu mwenye busara, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, huwezi kumwangalia mwananchi wako ambaye alikupigia kura juzi na hata ambaye hakukupigia kura, unamwangalia anakufa ukimwangalia. Poleni watu wa Mavoko kwa kitendo hichi, lakini na sisi watu wa Kwale tutasimama na nyinyi. Tutatia ubadi, tutatia uvumba, na sisi tuombe, tuseme kama kweli ile ni haki ilimtelekea mtu wa Mavoko, Mwenyezi Mungu simama na mtu wa Mavoko. Na pia mimi naomba bunge hili tutengeneze tume maalum Mheshimiwa Spika, ya kuweza kuangalia swala lile la Mavoko, na tuweze kupitisha watu wa Mavoko Mheshimiwa Spika walipwe, tena walipwe vizuri, waweze kuishi maisha mazuri. Na nataka kujenga matumaini kwa watu wa Mavoko, msivunjike moyo. Kuna kesho yenu inakuja hapa hapa duniani na sio kesho akhera, kama ndugu zangu Waislamu wanavyosema malipo ni kesho akhera. Tunataka malipo yawe hapa hapa duniani, kila mtu aone. Mheshimiwa Spika, asante sana, na nasema poleni sana ndugu zetu wa Mavoko, tunalia na nyinyi usiku na mchana. Asante.
MP for Kibra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this very emotive motion. Now, in the history of Kenya, we have not seen such an act. This government is led by rogue officers, a people who do not know the morals. In our own culture, where I come from, I am very reluctant to talk about land matters because in our days, when you pass somebody's kill, I cannot translate that in English, but Mr. Speaker, maybe you can translate to them. When you pass somebody's kill, you cannot reach 1 week before you die.
Yeah, Kiau, if I were to help you, Honorable Rero, is a Latin word for border or land boundary.
That is it. I thought it was the same in Cumberland, because these people would have not lived by now. What they have done, the atrocities that they have inflicted, they do not deserve to exist. This government is supposed to lead people, but they are destroying the people they are leading. I am saying that we have in a government that does not care about the lives of the people. Mr. Speaker, please protect me. I am saying that this is a government. Last year,
Honorable Rero would be heard in silence just the way the others were.
The former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Mr. Boris, was taken to court because he celebrated during COVID-19. He was the Prime Minister. In this country, we are destroying people's homes. The Minister for Lands should have resigned by now. But if it was a mature democracy, the whole government should have resigned by now. We are saying that we cannot. There are many people now in Mavoko. This motion of adjournment today has brought both sides of the House. You could see even the Kenya Kwanza were actively participating, knowing that this is a serious matter, that this country, we must sort out this once and for all. The matters of land in this country, we have something called adverse possession. There are people who have lived there for more than 12 years. These court cases, like now again we have this Embakasi Ranch, they also want to remove Kirima cases, they want to remove people from their land, and we are setting bad examples with the Mavoko. What are we going to do with the people who have used their whole earnings in this country? They have taken loans from the banks. I am asking that we form a parliamentary commission to inquire about the Mavoko land and other lands in this country. If we go on like this, Mr. Speaker, sir, we will not have people living on this land, and the land grabbers in this government will continue grabbing land by simply destroying other people's property. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that if we do not stop these rogue people in the government, we will not have a country the next 1 year. I want to sympathize with my brothers from Mavoko. The only problem is that in Mavoko, it is a cosmopolitan. It is where different tribes are living. Even from my village, we have people who are living there. Even from East Western, we have people living there. So this is a national issue. It is not really a Mavoko or an Eastern or Kamba issue. We must come together as Kenyans. We must agree that this kind of man-eat society kind of government, we must say that it must stop. We have people who believe that this country can only go on with them at the helm. We must say that this act that we have seen in Mavoko must never occur anywhere in this part of the country. We are ready to stay here even up to midnight to try and look at why this happens in this region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. I stand by saying
Thaddeus in Zambia will be the last to speak to this adjournment motion. I would request the members who have stayed up to this time to wait so that we can close the business we had under Order 12. Honorable Thaddeus.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, Honorable Nzambia. Honorable Omar Mwinyi, you wanted to speak to this adjournment motion. So then you will be the last to speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me this noble opportunity to join my colleagues in sympathizing with the people of Mavoko. Honorable Speaker, what really happened was a was a heinous act. Honorable Speaker, at any one given time, it is always good to be sensitive to your people. I think, Honorable Speaker, as we speak now, what we should be first
I want Honorable Zambia to be heard in complete silence the way we've been doing. And let me congratulate the House. For the first time, we put politics aside. In as much as we have a bit of banter, we are proffering solutions to a matter of national importance. So proceed, Honorable Zambia.
Yeah, thank you.
And by the way, the more you consult loudly, the more his time gets extended. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and you protect me so that my time is not eaten up by those members who are just moving up and down and making some noise. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. What I want to say is that these are very sensitive and emotive matter, and as members of this House, the next course of action or whatever we should be asking for now is how safe are our children and those schools which are demolished. What is the situation? Because we understand in the next few days, our students, our candidates are starting their exams. As the government, I think they should take this opportunity to make sure they know and get into the welfare of our students and the candidates who are affected. Honorable Speaker, I think it has taken long. And this House, in the 12th Parliament, there was a task force which was tasked into coming up with a report regarding the Portland and in Mavoko area. Honorable Speaker, I don't know how long it will take for these reports, which we have been spending taxpayers' money coming up with these serious reports. But when it comes to implementation, nothing is happening. Honorable Speaker, the land which has been affected, that land belongs to the Kamba community. Honorable Speaker, when mining is done in an area, the law is very clear that after the extraction or after the mining, the land should be taken back to the owners. Honorable Speaker, I take this serious time to condemn this government because we are talking about affordable housing. Honorable Speaker, it is very clear that those houses which were demolished, they have high value. Honorable Speaker, we should be very sensitive to our people because now, how can you talk of affordable housing and you continue demolishing very valuable houses meant for the Kenyans? We must be very sensitive to our people. Honorable Speaker, I am in the Lands Committee, and Honorable Speaker, I put with strong words possible that this government should compensate 100% to those who have been affected. Honorable Speaker, I want the member who is just crying over there to listen to this sensitive matter. Those people who have been denied, those members, those people who have been affected, they are crying. We must stand with our people. The government should be ready to compensate our people.
Honorable Zambia, because you've been interrupted, the Speaker, on his own discretion, under Standing Order number 1 and the Standing Order on House adjournment, will give you 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for seeing this sensitive issue before this House.
Maybe I let the members know that the government includes you on both sides. You are in the first arm of government. Honorable Fatuma, there is nothing called opposition under our current constitutional arrangement. You are a member of parliament in the first arm of government. So you are in government. So nobody should feel so irritated when we say government has done this. It may be an agency, or it may be those of you who are speaking within the House here. Unless we are specific to an individual in government, there is no reason to worry. Continue, Honorable Zambia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for being considerate. Honorable Speaker, what these people are not understanding, some honorable members think that this is not a Kamba affair. Those who have been affected are people across the country. It doesn't matter who was affected, comes from which region. The point here is, those people need to be compensated. Honorable Speaker, in our current budget, we have a lot of money for compensation of squatters. I'm in the Lands Committee, and we have put a lot of money for the compensation of land squatters. What I'm trying to say is that the government should have first consulted. They could have given time and negotiate with these people. These are Kenyans. These are not foreigners. Even if they are foreigners, they need to be given time and to be heard. Honorable Speaker, it is the last time this House we stand with our people, with our Kenyan people. Actually, Honorable Speaker, the cost of living is very high. The cost of living is unbearable. And you tell me, you at this time of economic times, you can move and demolish houses for Kenyans. Let us be sensitive as a government. This is a matter which needs a lot of urgency. And as this House, we need to stand with our people. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, the issue of land is a bit sensitive. And I wonder, what is the cost of producing title deeds? Why don't people of Kenyans own title deeds of the land they occupy? Honorable Speaker, we've allocated enough money for digitalization of title deeds. And Honorable Speaker, I can report with a lot of honesty and sincerity that a lot has not been done. A lot of money has been put there, and nothing is coming out. Right now, Honorable Speaker, if you can get to know the billions of money which has been spent in this digitalization thing, I think it is the highest time as the members of this House, we have to do an investigation to know where this taxpayers' money is going. Honorable Speaker, and this is very sensitive, Honorable Speaker, Kenya Railways bought land from Portland. Where on earth can a government sell a land to a government institution? And as you are aware, probably most of you are not aware, this demolition was done to pave way for the Kenya Railways to pay the balance of 500 million. And this being very sensitive, Honorable Speaker, there are people behind the push for the Kenya Railways to compensate or to pay the balance, that is to the Portland. And the Honorable Speaker, as you know, the word corruption is not being mentioned in this government. Honorable Speaker, we need to have a task force, and they should be led by the Lands Committee. I think it is the highest time the Lands Committee, headed by the chair, to get into the ground and get us the real report, get a real report which can be discussed in this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I really thank you for adding me some few minutes so that we can deliberate on this sensitive.
The Honorable Omar Mwinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me time to weigh in on this sensitive matter. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this motion, first of all, by showing my solidarity with the people of Mavoko. I also want to support this motion by condemning the act that was done by the government. We are not talking about Kenya Kwanza government here, we are talking about the Kenya government. The action that the government has taken is actually barbaric, and it is no different from what the Israel government is doing to the Palestinians. I'm also joining my other colleagues in condemning the trivialization of this matter by any MP. Because we as MPs, Mr. Speaker, we are actually national leaders. We do not belong to this wing or the other wing. We are all national leaders. When it comes to such matters, Mr. Speaker, we are supposed to forget our parties and speak and stand to the occasion, to be counted that you are actually a national leader standing on the ideals of this country. Mr. Speaker, I also support this motion on condemning anybody who wants to settle a political score by harming innocent Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, the onus of settling people is actually on the government. Our successive governments have failed, Mr. Speaker, to arrange on how the people are going to be settled. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, you find when people see a piece of land lying idle anywhere, they start building. Wazee Nyumba Kumi, are actually elected. There was Mta, the assistant chief. Then, of course, the DC is also aware because he also takes part of the money when people are coming there. And then later on, you find the DCCs and the government leaders coming with bulldozers to bring down these shelters. This is very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, and it should actually come to an end. Mr. Speaker, we have seen successive governments ignoring reports that are actually given about land grabbing, about malpractices, and nothing has actually been done about it, Mr. Speaker. There is no action. There is nobody who has been taken to court, nobody who has been jailed, Mr. Speaker. So it means all our governments have been supporting these malpractices. Mr. Speaker, we've been hearing about digitization of the land registry since 1980s. To date, Mr. Speaker, we still want to collect cash money because we want to steal the money. We are not interested in digitizing because we still want to do malpractice in land matters, Mr. Speaker. So if the government is the culprit, how then do you go and demolish people's homes? I call them homes, I don't call them houses, Mr. Speaker. Then you only do it after declaring it in a public rally that they are going to be demolished tomorrow, and then it happens. This is very unfortunate. Such things need a discussion, Mr. Speaker. A discussion where we ask ourselves, in this situation, what is the best way? And I believe, Mr. Speaker, the government has funds to compensate the owner. They would have done that to make sure at least these people's homes are saved. Mr. Speaker, we shall ask one question. Was the action taken by the government the best action at the time?
You'll have 2 minutes.
A better way or option than what actually was done. Was the action taken by the government a way of perhaps a vendetta? And if we saw, to who? Who was that vendetta directed to? And as it has been alluded here, Mr. Speaker, the people who are living there are Kenyans. Kenyans of all shades. So if it was vendetta, then vendetta against Kenyans? That is very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to propose that we do not have just the land committee, but we have a select committee to look into this matter. Mr. Speaker, remember there is somebody called Baraza, a notorious auctioneer who goes and takes, contraband and I would say, illegal court orders to demolish people's homes, like the ones which happened in Westlands. He also did the same in Changamwe, in Dungaunuse. And he's just left to go scot-free, Mr. Speaker. If such things can happen, and we just look at it as if nothing has happened, Mr. Speaker, then we are not a republic, we are a banana republic. And I would actually urge this House, Mr. Speaker, whenever we have such matters, let us forget our political divide. Let us be all Kenyans. Let us debate as Kenyans with this nation at heart. Because if the people of Mavoko are actually hurt, we should also feel that pain. We actually feel the pain of the people of Gaza, the way they have actually been affected. How about these people here of Mavoko? Supposing there are people coming from your area, would you feel actually happy? And I'm giving you an example, Mr. Speaker. There is an MP in Samburu who was blaming the government, and he belongs to this government because his people have been affected security-wise. So this is actually what we should all be feeling, Mr. Speaker. For that matter, the compensation matter should actually be a point that select committee should be recommending. And without much ado, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion that was brought about by Honorable Mbui, and he did not do so because he is somebody coming from that area, but he is a human being with a heart. And any human being with a heart has a feeling, and this feeling will be expressed in the manner that Mr. Mbui, Honorable Mbui, and others did. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I beg to support. Thank you very much.
Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also support this motion. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to thank our very able Deputy Minority Leader for bringing this motion, because this has been an issue that has been very sensitive, very emotive to a lot of people. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say from the onset, we live in very interesting times in this country. We have a government that even promises El Nino and doesn't deliver. We have a government that is not thinking about its people.
Honorable Irene Mayaka, when did any government start delivering rains?
Honorable Speaker, the government gave us a lot of preparedness. They promised boats in Nairobi and everywhere else saying El Nino is coming. And then the other day, they told us there's no El Nino. So, Honorable Speaker, that is lack of delivery of something that they've already promised. But Honorable Speaker, I digress. And let me just say this very clearly, Honorable Speaker, that the people in Mavoko, legal due process was not even followed. Because by the time you want to displace people from where they live, you first ensure that you are actually relocating them and compensating them. Because now we have a humanitarian crisis with us. We have children who have been displaced. We have seen children crying on social media. We have candidates for class 8 and form 4 who suddenly are living in makeshift houses. Honorable Speaker, Athi River is an area that, first of all, does not have a lot of tree coverage. So you can imagine at night the kind of cold that those children feel. And Honorable Speaker, I just want us to look into our conscience as leaders. Because when we sit here and allow that someone can make declarations in a public rally and say that they're going to do distraction, and they actually do it. Honorable Speaker, it is no surprise that the other day on Sunday, when the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga and His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka were just passing through Kitengela, and they were actually stopped by people, by force. They had no plans of stopping, but Kenyans stopped them because they were crying out. Because they're feeling like should they have had the leadership of these two gentlemen, together with Honorable Martha Karua, we will probably not have been in this situation. Because, Honorable Speaker, we must have leaders who are compassionate. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say, especially to the honorable members who are shouting that it will never happen, that you don't know about tomorrow. The government can eat its own children. It can eat you as well. So you'd better not make declarations that you cannot justify, because nobody knows about tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, secondly, I just want to talk about the issue of urban planning. Before we go ahead and do what was done the other day, you ought to start thinking about urban planning. Honorable Speaker, back in 1963, Kenya and Singapore were at par. Right now, Singapore is so many years ahead of us because we've had the wrong leadership, because we've had leaders who are not thinking about tomorrow, because we've had leaders who are not thinking about what do we need to do to ensure that, number one, besides everything else, the basic needs of our people are guaranteed. Honorable Speaker, by the time someone is building a house in Athi River, they've had their family living there for so many years, and then you suddenly want to come and destabilize them. And yet in this country, we keep saying that we have issues to do with mental health. We are having a lot of issues to do with people feeling destabilized. First of all, already we are dealing with an extremely high economy. We are dealing with high taxes, and then you add on to people more problems that ideally they could have avoided. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say that the first thing, even us as legislators, and it's very good that I had a couple of honorable members suggesting this, that we need to sit down and start having actual reviews of our laws. We need to have actual reviews of even our penal codes that criminalize some of these things, that we should be able to come back, sit down and say, how about we start thinking about humanity first before we think about chest thumping? Because, Honorable Speaker, a lot of chest thumping goes on in this country. And I just want to urge the leaders, especially those in government, that you don't know about tomorrow. Can you please stop chest thumping and start thinking about Kenyans and their lives and their children and how ideal.
You'll have 1 minute only.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I was saying, Honorable Speaker, I want people to start looking back into their conscience, for the government to look back into its conscience, because 5 years from now, Kenyans are going to ask you questions. When I had a home, you came and destroyed it. Why would you want me to give you your vote again? And Honorable Speaker, having said that, I just want to say once again that I support this motion and that this conversation should actually not end here. We should have in place longevity measures, regulations, and laws that are sustainable and that can help our people in the long run, so that we don't have a repeat of this action and that we can eventually stop having knee-jerk reactions to some of these issues. I submit.
Honorable Member, there is no further interest in this motion. Let us thank the Speaker for according it time and for restoring it. Let me thank each of you who have stayed up to this late. I know your other obligations at home, particularly those in leadership. The Honorable Dr. Naomi Wako, Canon, the Honorable Robert Mbui, the Honorable Mark Mwenje, and of course, each of you have stayed this late. Let me also appreciate the members, including those who have left, for ensuring that in as much as we talk politics on a matter as serious as this, we also come up with some solutions. So I was very pleased to hear the need for digitization so that we cannot have multiple titles, and so that even online you can check and see whether land is available. the need to, of course, ensure our government agencies always act right, and the need in any event to stop land grab always. So thank you very much. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, the time being 9:00 p.m., this House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 26th day of October, 2023 at 2:30 p.m.